Chapter 645, Decisive. The purple mist shrank like crazy and a thick layer of purple gas formed around its edge. No matter how hard the disciples of the Dalu sword sect tried, they couldn't break through the purple gas. The purple gas seemed to have corrosive properties, so they looked dispirited and irritated. One of the Dalu sword sect disciples even used Ling Tianhu's sword energy, but it had no effect. It was quickly absorbed by the purple gas. Qianlong's expression changed greatly. He turned toward Wang Lin, who was backing off, and urgently shouted, "Brother Wang, right now we are facing a crisis. Can your friend help?" Wang Lin, this old man originally didn't want to kill you so early, but since you ran headfirst into this matter, no one can save you. Greed's voice slowly entered the purple mist. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't speak but quickly retreated. At this moment the purple mist was rapidly contracting. If he retreated too slowly and was invaded by the purple gas, there might be other dangers. The Dalu sword sect disciples also quickly retreated, and Qianlong urgently shouted, "Fellow cultivator Wang! Fellow cultivator Qianlong, I don't even have the ability to save myself, so please don't mention this matter." Wang Lin shook his head and immediately disappeared into the purple mist. Zhou Yi's celestial sword circled around his body. "You!" Qianlong's expression was gloomy, and he let out a sigh. The Heavenly Fate sect and the Dalu sword sect were like fire and water. He understood why Wang Lin refused to help. "I am to blame for hesitating so much. If I had decided earlier to rebel against greed, we wouldn't have ended up like this if we used Master S sword energy." There was regret in Qianlong's eyes. However, greed was a senior from his Master S generation, so he knew of their sword energy. He understood that even if they used their Master S sword energy, he was afraid greed would already be prepared for it. As a result, victory was not certain. Also, it was very likely that all of his junior apprentice brothers would die. He wasn't willing to pay such a price for his suspicion, so that was why he couldn't be decisive and had waited a century. At this moment, the purple mist rapidly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it became 10 times smaller than before. As the purple mist shrank, the purple gas at the edge became even stronger. The people of the Dalu sword sect constantly retreated. "Wang Lin, if we don't leave, it will be hard to rush out, even with my abilities." Zhou Yi's anxious voice echoed in Wang Lin's mind. "Wait a bit more." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was still inside the mist. As he looked at the Dalu sword sect disciples in the distance, his eyes became cold. 5 people, 4 rays of Ling Tianhu's sword energy, 5 treasured swords. Wang Lin's eyes became even colder. Qianlong's eyes revealed sadness as he looked at the junior apprentice brothers beside him. He closed his eyes, then he suddenly opened them, and his eyes contained a rare hint of decisiveness. "Fellow junior apprentice brothers, I am sorry. I am really useless." Qianlong clenched his teeth and quickly pointed to between his eyebrows. A ray of red light immediately appeared between his eyebrows. This red light turned into sword energy. This was Ling Tianhu's sword energy, but it was several times stronger than the ones Wang Lin had seen. It was on a completely different level compared to the others. This sword energy was formed when Ling Tianhu refined the 4 small worlds into the 4 swords. It was one of the life sword energies that he refined inside his soul. The 11 strands of sword energy that he gave the other disciples were things he created by simply waving his hand. The difference was too big. It was because he had this strand of sword energy that he regretted that he wasn't decisive enough to act sooner. The moment the sword energy appeared, the shrinking purple mist slowed for a moment. Outside, Greed's eyes turned cold. He quickly noticed that there was something not right about this Qianlong, and he had guessed correctly. Qianlong let out a sigh, then the sword energy surrounded his body. He rushed directly at the purple gas, and at the moment he collided with the purple gas, there was a loud sound as if there was intense friction. It looked like there was fire around Qianlong's body. In the end, a small opening appeared in the purple mist and Qianlong charged out with the sword energy. It wasn't that he didn't want to take his junior apprentice brothers with him, but he calculated that if he took even one person, he wouldn't be able to break through. At the moment Qianlong charged out, the purple mist immediately condensed even more. The purple mist was so dense that one couldn't see inside it anymore. Not even sound could escape the mist at this point. The 4 Dalu sword sect disciples' eyes were filled with despair. Wu Ma let out an angry roar. 3 junior apprentice brothers. Since things are already like this, why despair? I know that Wang Lin is still in here. Help me kill this man so that I have no regrets. After he said that, the other 3 Dalu sword sect disciples released killing intent. Indeed, if they were going to die, they might as well kill that heavenly fate sect person. If it wasn't tea for that person appearing, they might have had a chance to survive. Wang Lin, you still aren't tea going out. What are you waiting for? Zhou Yi was already roaring inside Wang Lin's mind. Senior, help me lock onto the other 4 with your sword divine sense. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he moved like lightning. In the purple mist where divine sense was obstructed, he was like a ghost. Wang Lin, in 10 breaths of time, even if you resist, I am taking you outside. After Zhou Yi sent this message, he spread out his sword divine sense through the shrinking purple mist and locked on to the 4 people of the Dalu sword sect. Wang Lin moved like lightning toward one of them. This person had the lowest cultivation level among the 4, only mid-stage soul transformation. This person's divine sense was useless in the purple mist. It was as if he was blind and deaf in this situation. The moment Wang Lin closed in, this person only felt a breeze. However, this breeze quickly became cold, and it left with his head. Wang Lin held the head with the sword energy locked inside. After putting away the treasured sword, he charged toward the next target. Cixi controlled his treasured sword, but he was frustrated, and his eyes contained despair. He opened his eyes wide, but he could only see 7 feet before him. Everything after that was just purple mist. His eyes suddenly blurred as if he had seen a figure flash before him. Who? Cixi's heart trembled, and he immediately threw his sword into the mist. However, at the moment he threw the sword, he felt a cold hand press against the back of his neck. He felt his origin soul tremble, and the life force inside him instantly left his body. After letting out a miserable scream, his body was mummified. However, at the moment he died, Ling Tianhu's sword energy inside his body suddenly erupted and collapsed along with his body. Wu Ma's eyes were completely red. After losing his treasured sword, he hated Wang Lin to the bone. Now that he had activated Ling Tianhu's sword energy, if he felt as much as a breeze, he would immediately release it. At this moment, the purple mist before him churned as if someone was rushing over. Wu Ma's eyes became ferocious, and he shouted, Wang Lin, die! He was just about to release Ling Tianhu's sword energy in his hand, when his junior apprentice brother Shu Gu's voice suddenly appeared. Senior apprentice brother, it's me. Wu Ma was startled, and he withdrew his right hand. However, just as he was about to speak, a hand silently appeared from the mist on his right. A forefinger touched the spot between Wu Ma's eyebrows. Wu Ma's eyes bulged, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, and he wanted to reactivate the sword energy he just withdrew, but there was no chance. After exactly 10 breaths of time, Zhou Yi forcibly took Wang Lin and charged out of the purple mist. Unfortunately, there's still one sword. Wang Lin let out a sigh. From the 4 Dalu sword sect disciples, he only managed to get 2 more rays of sword energy. Adding the one he had before, he now had 3. The 4 of them had been trapped in the purple mist for a century, so they were very impatient and felt despair to the point of collapse after Chen Long left. If it wasn't tea for those and various other reasons, even Wang Lin couldn't have taken the sword energies in just 10 breaths of time. Even so, one of them was still able to successfully activate the sword energy. Fortunately, Wang Lin was prepared, so he wasn't injured. If it was another location and conditions were different, Wang could only retreat when facing 4 Dalu sword sect disciples with Ling Tianhu's sword energy. He wasn't afraid of the 4 of them, but he was very cautious of the sword energies. Zhou Yi personally witnessed this, and his admiration for Wang Lin increased. Wang Lin acted boldly and decisively. If it was someone else, they would have only thought about escaping and would not have considered anything else. He didn't know that compared to back when Wang Lin was at the Sea of Devils, Wang Lin took the chance when the dragon died at the graveyard to take its body away before it fell into the pit. Compared to that, this really wasn't much. The mist shrank like crazy. Right now it wasn't even 1,000 feet wide. Outside the purple mist, Chen Long's expression was extremely gloomy. Ling Tianhu's sword energy was in his hand, emitting a harsh light. Countless mosquito beasts had surrounded him and were currently fighting him. Greed, I want to see how you will explain this to my master in the future. Greed was standing in the distance and was surrounded by mosquito beasts. The mosquito beasts were extremely tyrannical, and their eyes were filled with a fierce light. If it wasn't T for the constant roars coming from within the group, they would have already pounced even if it was greed. Even after controlling the king beast, which allowed him to indirectly manipulate the herd, greed still didn't dare to get too close to these mosquito beasts. These mosquito beasts' nature was too violent, and they couldn't be tamed at all. If he slightly let his guard down, he would suffer an attack from them. If there were only dozens, he wouldn't care. If there were hundreds, it still wouldn't be a big deal. Even if there were thousands, at most his expression would change. However, there were tens of thousands of mosquito beasts here. As a result, how could his scalp not go numb? Even though he had control, he was still very cautious. When your master learns of this matter, I'll naturally have an explanation. Also, it's not known if he will even find out about this matter. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's figure appeared from the purple mist. As he stood on top of the celestial sword, it released powerful sword energy. Wang Lin's appearance immediately made Greed's eyes become cold. He sneered and sent out a command with his mind. A large group of the mosquito beasts immediately let out a roar and charged toward Wang Lin. Greed let out a cold snort. He didn't intend to immediately kill Wang Lin, but wanted to extract his origin soul to find Situnan's whereabouts. When he saw Wang Lin outside the East Demon Spirit Sea for a moment, he felt Situnan's aura on Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at the mosquito beasts coming at him and revealed a strange expression. Just at this moment, an even more sharp cry suddenly came from inside the herd that completely replaced the previous roar. At the same time, a purple figure rushed out toward Wang Lin. This figure was Wang Lin's mosquito beast. 3,000 words in a major chapter, hoping to be shared, hoping to get the like button hit for the video. Chapter 646, Greed's Spell. This mosquito pierced through the group of its kind like a ray of purple light and let out a roar. It went straight toward Wang Lin. When it arrived next to Wang Lin, its huge mouth gently rubbed Wang Lin, and its eyes were filled with excitement. The group of mosquito beasts rushing toward Wang Lin all stopped. Although their eyes were still vicious, there was a flash of doubt in their eyes. The scene caused Greed to become completely dumbfounded. This even caused Chen Long's eyes to light up brightly. Greed's face was gloomy as his hand formed a seal and he shouted, "7 magic needle, imprint!" A sharp cry came from within the depths of the herd, and the large swarm of mosquitoes immediately opened a path. From the center of the herd, a giant mosquito with 7 silver needles stuck in its head slowly flew out. There was struggle within its red eyes. The mosquito beast stared at Greed and let out a roar. Greed let out a roar and the silver needles on its head sank in 3 more inches. The mosquito's body trembled and the struggle in its eyes became even stronger. However, its eyes immediately showed a trace of resolve as it let out a loud cry filled with death. Its gaze moved like lightning and landed on Wang Lin's mosquito beast. Wang Lin's mosquito was startled as it flapped its wings and flew away from Wang Lin. It went directly toward its companion and immediately arrived on the back of the giant mosquito. Its large mouth suddenly stabbed into the body of the giant mosquito. As it began to suck, the struggle in the giant mosquito's eyes disappeared and was replaced by a glimmer of relief. The suction was completed in almost an instant. As the giant mosquito withered, Wang Lin's mosquito gradually grew. Its body got larger, and the purple on it became more dense. Then an aura that could only be felt by their own kind spread out. This happened extremely fast. Wang Lin's mosquito beast suddenly raised its head and stared at Greed before letting out a roar. All of the mosquito's gazes immediately fell on Greed, and then they immediately charged toward him. Greed's scalp went numb. His hand formed a seal, and the 7 silver needles immediately came out of the withered mosquito corpse and flew back to him. The silver needles formed a silver light screen next to him, and then he immediately charged off to the side. Wang Lin took a deep breath and backed up. His right forefinger suddenly pointed at Greed, and a finger of death shot out toward him. In the distance, all of the mosquitoes around Chen Long had left, and his eyes had become cold as well. Without any hesitation, his right hand formed a seal and the giant sword behind him flew out. A black dragon with intelligent eyes appeared and let out a roar. He shot a ray of sword energy directly at Greed. Although the two of them had never cooperated before, Reaching this far in cultivation proved that they both had good insight. Their timing was great, and both of their attacks were in the way of Greed's path of retreat. Greed's pupils shrank. He knew that he must not be surrounded by the mosquito beasts, or else he would die for sure. He let out a cold snort. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years and had faced scenes like this many times. He backed up while his right hand formed a seal and he clawed at the wall. He shouted, "Death Devourer, first style!" This claw caused a large amount of green gas to come out from the wall. There was simply too much green gas. The green gas gathered together and formed a green waterfall. The green waterfall was pulled out from the wall as Greed moved his right hand. His eyes glowed green as he threw the green waterfall behind him. The green gas suddenly shot out like a ray of light crossing the sky. Wang Lin's finger of death turned green after touching the green gas and collapsed immediately after. Chen Long's dragon sword spirit let out a roar when it touched the green gas. On impact, the dragon spirit immediately collapsed and the sword flew back toward Chen Long. "You little juniors dare to provoke old man Greed." Greed let out a shout as he quickly moved. He was about to rush out of the mosquito beast siege. If he was able to escape the siege, no one would be able to stop him if he wished to fight or leave. Chen Long shouted, "Wang Lin, we shouldn't hold back. Let us work together to kill this old thief. Otherwise, both of us will die." He spat out a mouthful of origin blood essence and it fell on his sword. The sword began to tremble and cracks appeared all over it. Pieces of metal began to flake off as if the sword was shedding its skin. The pieces that fell off contained bloodlust. They once again formed the black dragon and charged out with power several times stronger than before. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he touched the spot between his eyebrows with his right hand. A large amount of slaughter energy came out and gathered on his fingertip. The slaughter energy rapidly condensed. 1,000,000 into 100,000, 100,000 into 1,000, 1,000 into only one. Aside from the one strand he kept in his origin soul, all the other strands had been condensed at Wang Lin's fingertip into one strand. The dense strand of slaughter energy shot out after being flicked by Wang Lin. Ling Tianhu's broken sword spirit and the All-Seer's celestial slaughter art. Greed's eyes glowed brightly, but there was a hint of mockery in them. He retreated and said, "Although these two spells are powerful, your mastery over them isn't complete. Before this old man's eyes, they are simply too weak." Greed slapped his bag of holding, and a small mountain immediately flew out. After the mountain flew out, it immediately grew into a mountain several hundred feet tall and floated in the air. This mountain was covered in carvings of mysterious runes. As the small mountain moved, the runes flashed and the mountain became very strange. Greed's right hand turned into a claw once more. He placed his hand on the mountain and shouted, "Death Devourer second style. Extract mountain's soul." The entire mountain trembled and an ancient aura suddenly appeared from within the mountain. It was like the aura of an ancient cultivator who had cultivated for countless years. This was the mountain's soul. As Greed shouted, this aura was pulled out by him. An illusion of the mountain appeared and was pulled out by Greed. An incomparably powerful aura immediately appeared. After the mountain's soul was extracted, it began to tremble and countless cracks appeared. Eventually, the entire mountain collapsed into rubble and fell from the sky. However, the illusionary mountain soul was still in Greed's hand. This old man's cultivation can compare to old child Ling Tian or that old thief Ulcer, but this old man Greed's spells have no flaws. You juniors merely learned other spells and really think they are your own. Greed's eyes were filled with mockery as his right hand pressed down. With a loud bang, the mountain soul descended. The black dragon formed by Chen Long's broken sword let out a whimper as the incredible pressure from the mountain soul pressed down. After a series of rumbles, the black dragon was trapped under the pressure of the mountain soul. Chen Long's expression turned pale. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his eyes filled with shock. What is this spell? Wang Lin's slaughter energy flew through the air, and the mountain soul seemed unable to stop it. The slaughter energy pierced through the mountain soul. Wang Lin's eyes turned cold and he shouted, "Scatter!" The slaughter energy that pierced into the mountain soul scattered. It turned from 1 to 1,000,000. 1,000,000 strands of slaughter energy moved within the mountain soul. It was as if they wanted to rush out from the mountain soul and tear it into pieces. However, powerful celestial spiritual energy came out from the mountain soul, and in the blink of an eye, the strands of slaughter energy collapsed one by one. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. If it wasn't for the fact that he always kept one strand in his soul to allow him to endlessly recover his slaughter energy, he would have been greatly pained by the loss. There is even celestial spiritual energy within the mountain soul. This celestial spiritual energy does indeed look like it came from greed. It seems to belong to the mountain itself. Wang Lin's expression sank. With the help of the mountain soul, greed was finally able to escape the mosquito beast's siege. He laughed loudly. "Little juniors, do you know what mountain this is? This is a mountain from the celestial realm. This old man pulled it out tens of thousands of years ago and sealed it." Just at this moment, the constantly shrinking purple mist was about to finish. It shrank from 1,000 feet into 10 feet, forming a dense ball of purple mist. There was still no sound coming from inside the ball of mist, but Wang Lin knew that there was one living person inside, a Dalu sword sect disciple. With a bang, the 10-foot ball of mist shrank again and was now 7 feet. A token gradually began to appear inside the mist. This token was made of the mist and was quickly condensing. There was a trace of greed in Greed's eyes. He was about to rush toward the token when the large mosquito herd behind him suddenly let out a fierce roar. The mosquito beasts charged out one by one like crazy, completely disregarding their own lives. Their speed was several times faster than before. Their sudden movement caused Greed's expression to immediately change. Wang Lin's mosquito inside the herd let out a roar, and suddenly all of the mosquitoes' bodies released red light. Those closest to Greed unexpectedly collapsed into large clouds of flesh and blood that gave off a red glow. They arrived directly next to Greed, and then mysteriously formed back into mosquito beasts again. Not only did those mosquitoes use this spell, every mosquito beast did. They all collapsed and restored themselves in the next instant. They all did this in an instant and completely trapped Greed. The purple mist rapidly contracted, and the token inside became more solid. In an instant, the final step was complete. After all the mist dissipated, an ancient token giving off purple light floated in the air. There was golden light mixed in with the purple light. Wang Lin's and Chen Long's gazes fell on the token at this moment. Chen Long immediately charged out toward the token. No one dared to use teleportation near the exit. The pressure here was too great, so if anyone tried to teleport, they would be trapped in the void. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and he flew out at the same time. His hand formed a seal, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged. He was preparing the stop spell. "You juniors dare." Just at this moment, an angry roar came from within the herd of mosquito beasts. Tonight there will be 2 to 3 new chapters. Leo will do his utmost to make up for the chapters missing from the last 2 days. Chapter 647 Furnace. As Chen Long rushed forth, Ling Tianhu's sword energy gathered in his hand. The sword energy circled around his hand, and then a pressure spread out. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He had already noticed that there was something wrong with the ray of Ling Tianhu's sword energy that belonged to Chen Long. At the moment the sword energy appeared, Wang Lin immediately felt his heart tighten. "This is Ling Tianhu's life sword energy, very powerful." Zhou Yi's voice entered Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he stopped moving. He no longer chased after the token and held back the celestial spell in his hand as he coldly looked at Chen Long. Chen Long was extremely flashy and suddenly appeared next to the token. His eyes were filled with joy. He didn't know what it was, but for it to be something even Greed cared so much about, it had to be a rare treasure. However, just as he reached out toward the token, Greed's angry roar came from within the mosquito herd. "Junior Chen Long, this old man will kill you. Death Devourer third style." Greed's voice was like lightning. It seemed to turn solid as it went through the mosquito herd, passed by Wang Lin, and charged directly at Chen Long. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and he immediately retreated a few steps. The roar charged out from the mosquito herd and began to take form. Suddenly, a crystal-clear small person appeared in the air. This person didn't look like Greed at all, but his body gave off Greed's aura. Second origin soul. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of air as he stared at the small person. Greed was so angry that his anger was enough to burn his heart. He was helpless, so he could only send out his second origin soul while his main body was trapped by the mosquito herd. The 7 needles rapidly rotated around him. They could guard him for a bit, but not for too long. These mosquitoes' bodies were extremely tough, especially their mouths, which were as hard as iron essence. If that was only the case, it wouldn't be too bad, but whenever a mosquito was killed, they would immediately collapse into a red cloud. The red cloud would retreat and instantly condense back into a mosquito beast. Although it would be weaker, it would once again fiercely pounce at him. After this small person appeared, he immediately turned into a ray of light. His hand formed a seal and black lightning began to appear around his body. Then the black lightning moved like meteors toward Qianlong. Qianlong's expression changed. If he didn't withdraw his right hand, he would be hit by the black lightning. However, everything would have been in vain if did. Going to risk it. Qianlong clenched his teeth and threw out Ling Tianho's sword energy. The sword energy flew through the air and shook the heavens and earth. Even the cliff of the abyss rumbled under the might of the sword energy. Endless gravel and soil fell from the cliff. The lightning bolts released by Greed's second origin soul touched the sword energy and collapsed one by one. Powerful force was scattered in all directions. The life seals appeared over Wang Lin's body as he backed up, but his eyes were bright like a torch. After releasing his master's sword energy, Qianlong seized the token without any hesitation. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. He immediately flew upwards, wanting to escape. Greed's second origin soul let out a roar and wanted to chase. However, Ling Tianhu's sword energy was simply too strong, and it even contained Qianlong's divine sense, so it was easily controlled. The sword energy repeatedly blocked the second origin soul's path, and constantly pushed it back. Greed's second origin soul didn't dare to touch the sword energy. He knew that his second origin soul would be seriously injured by it, so he could only wait until the sword energy dissipated. Trapped by the mosquito beasts, Greed's eyes revealed a hint of determination. His heart ached, but he immediately touched his bag of holding. He took out a finger-sized piece of sandalwood. The moment it appeared, it released a fragrance. This sandalwood looked very normal, as if it was something that belonged to the mortal world, but Greed's eyes were filled with sadness. "Child, you forced this old man to use a treasure of the celestial world, heaven, confusion, incense. This old will definitely cut you into pieces." Greed clenched his teeth and raised his left hand. He immediately lit the incense and a blue smoke began to rise from it. This smoke was extremely strange. When it spread out, although it was thin, it immediately formed a cloud. The mosquito beasts were all suddenly trapped in this mist, and at the same time, Greed rushed out from the mosquito herd. He stepped on the smoke and chased after Qianlong. "Senior Greed, fellow cultivator Wang Lin, I'll be taking this token." "Many thanks." Qianlong laughed. He was already looking at the exit in the distance. Wang Lin sneered as he stared at Qianlong's figure in the distance. His eyes gave off a ghostly light as he said to himself, "Stop!" The power of the low-quality celestial spell that could seal the heavens and freeze the earth went forth. A mysterious force immediately filled the abyss. If there was a powerful cultivator here, they would see that the area was filled with invisible threads. These invisible threads immediately wrapped around Qianlong. Qianlong only felt his body stop, and even his origin soul stopped. Also, the celestial spiritual energy inside his body stopped moving as if it was frozen solid. At this instant, he became completely motionless, and the token fell from his hand. Greed was extremely joyous as the smoke he released surrounded Qianlong. He charged directly at the token. Just at this moment, Wang Lin moved. Zhou Yi's celestial sword was under Wang Lin's feet, and they rushed out. The speed of the celestial sword was too fast, so fast that even Greed's expression changed. "Wang Lin, you aren't qualified to rob treasures from this old man." Greed was very close to the token. It looked like he only needed to extend his hand to reach the token. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he softly said, "Stop!" Greed paused for a moment. Although he immediately returned to normal and all the threads that had wrapped around him broke, with the help of the celestial sword, Wang Lin immediately closed in. In front of Greed's bulging eyes, Wang Lin took the token and swept past Greed. "Wang Lin, you dare to steal this old man's things!" Greed's eyes were bloodshot as he roared and rushed out. Qianlong had already recovered, and his expression was gloomy. Surrounded by the smoke, his hand formed a seal. He wanted to break through, but the smoke blocked his path, and he couldn't escape. The three of them were very close to the exit in the fire demon country. Wang Lin was very close to the exit thanks to Zhou Yi's speed. At this moment, the sunlight from the outside could be seen. Greed almost went crazy. As he let out a roar, he slapped his bag of holding and a giant furnace flew out. This furnace was about as big as a person and was completely black. There were countless beast-shaped runes on the furnace, and it gave off a desolate aura. Greed shouted, "Revert the universe! Reverse the heavens and earth!" The furnace shook and a ray of black light shot out. The black light quickly covered the heavens and earth. At this moment, it was as if the heavens and earth had reversed positions. The heavens became the earth. The earth became the heavens. Wang Lin's, Chen Long's, and Greed's positions suddenly reversed. Originally, Wang Lin was in front, but now he was where Chen Long was, surrounded by the smoke. As for Chen Long, he appeared where Wang Lin was. He was startled for a moment and was scared out of his wits. Without a word, he charged toward the exit. He was afraid. He didn't expect this greed to have such incredible magical treasures. This treasure was simply too strong. It could reverse the universe. At the moment he switched positions with Wang Lin, he felt a divine power. Compared to that divine power, he was simply too insignificant. This greed is indeed worthy of being someone from Master S generation. Although his cultivation level is far inferior to Master S, there must be something special about him if he caught Master S' attention. He didn't know that greed never went anywhere without treasures. Over the countless years, greed had obtained enough treasures to rival any celestial palace. However, a lot of the treasures he obtained were things he couldn't even use himself, and he was extremely cautious because he was afraid of others stealing from him. Whenever he felt like something was wrong, he would immediately run away. Greed breathed heavily and suddenly turned his head. He stared at Wang Lin, who was trapped in the smoke, and closed in with a grin. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air and stared at the furnace. There was a mysterious light in his eyes. He recognized that furnace. Without hesitation, he put the token inside his bag of holding. The celestial sword under his feet hummed and Zhou Yi's divine sense message entered his mind. What a powerful treasure. Wang Lin, keep yourself safe. Zhou Yi's celestial sword flashed, and a ray of sword energy flew out. The sword energy surrounded the sword and the celestial sword began to spin. The smoke surrounding them immediately began to swell, and then Zhou Yi shouted, "Open!" With a bang, an opening appeared in the smoke. The celestial sword rushed out. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he rushed out as well. This person's cultivation is ordinary, but his treasures are mysterious. Just how did a person like this obtain so many magical treasures? After Zhou Yi rushed out, his celestial sword stabbed toward Greed. Greed's eyes lit up brightly. He retreated and once again slapped his bag of holding. This action not only caused Zhou Yi to pause, it even made Wang Lin's heart skip a beat. Wang Lin, this old man has to thank Situnan. If not for him, how could I have been forced to stay at the waste planet of Suzaku for tens of thousands of years? If it wasn't for those tens of thousands of years, I couldn't have understood a lot of these treasures he couldn't use before. As Greed raised his right hand, a screen appeared in his right hand. After throwing the screen, it immediately grew to 100 feet wide. There was an ink painting of a landscape with mountains on the screen. Mist filled the mountains, making it give off the aura of a celestial world. This old man wasn't able to find the celestial realm's mountain and river painting, but I found an imprint of it on this screen. "Gather for me," as Greed shouted. A large suction force came from the screen. Zhou Yi's figure appeared from the celestial sword. He had a serious expression, and his right hand pointed forward. Without any hesitation, he released one of the two remaining life sword energies. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, and he immediately activated Ling Tianhua's sword energy inside his body. The sword energy opened a path through the pressure as he rushed down. Behind him, Greed's second origin soul, which was covered in countless lightning bolts, chased slowly after Wang Lin. Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment. Remember to like the video. Chapter 648, Ancient Thunder Dragon. With the sword energy making a path, Wang Lin used all of his speed and moved like a meteor toward the bottom. He didn't bother with Zhou Yi right now because although Greed had a lot of treasures, Zhou Yi wouldn't be defeated easily. What he needed to do now was open as much distance as possible to stall for time until Zhou Yi arrived. This greed has too many treasures. I don't know how many more strange treasures he has in that bag of his. Even if Senior Zhou Yi wins, I'm afraid it will take some time. Wang Lin frowned. The sword energy continued to break the resistance as he rushed downward. Behind him, Greed's second origin soul chased closely after. This second origin soul was like a small person made of crystal. Black lightning bolts surrounded this small person. The resistance coming from below was broken by the balls of lightning. His eyes glowed as he stared at Wang Lin. His right hand formed a seal, and he slapped his palm down. 9 of the balls of lightning around him immediately lined up like a string of beads. It pierced through the resistance like a fierce arrow and flew directly at Wang Lin. Thunder Wang Lin's head suddenly turned around, and he slapped his bag of holding. The god-slaying war chariot immediately flew out. It quickly formed a ball of lightning in the air. The ball quickly expanded and turned into a mighty thunder beast. The thunder beast was a celestial thunder beast. After it appeared, it snorted out 2 strands of green gas. Its eyes contained lightning. Under its gaze, not only did the 9 balls of thunder not slow down, they flew even faster. The thunder beast opened its mouth and let out a roar. The 9 balls of thunder suddenly trembled, and then instead of going to Wang Lin, they flew toward the thunder beast and were instantly swallowed by it. Greed's second origin soul's eyes immediately lit up. He moved his body, and all the black thunder around him rained down on Wang Lin and the thunder beast. At the same time, the second origin soul slapped his forehead. A hammer covered in lighting immediately appeared. He grabbed the hammer and slammed it down. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The thunderous roar of thunder exploded forth as lighting shot out from the hammer. The lightning moved like a dragon that was clawing toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he slapped his bag of holding, taking out the celestial brush. He took a deep breath and immediately drew in front of him. A 5-stroke symbol suddenly appeared, and he inserted 5 portions of his origin soul into it. The golden symbol released a blinding light. After it appeared, it shined like the sun. At the moment the dragon arrived, the 2 sides collided in the air. A loud bang echoed in the abyss, causing a large amount of rocks to fall from the cliff. Those rocks were pushed upward by the resistance force. For this instant, even the resistance force coming from below slowed for a moment. The symbol split into 5 pieces of divine sense and returned to Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's body staggered, and his face became pale. Without pause, he flew down again. The lightning dragon didn't change at all, but it stayed in the air completely motionless. When the resistance force pushed against it, countless cracks appeared on it, and it collapsed. As for the thunder beast, when the balls of thunder arrived, it opened its mouth and happily ate 1 ball of thunder every time it opened its mouth. Even the collapsing lightning dragon was devoured by the thunder beast as it passed by. Then it looked at Greed's second origin soul with a provoking gaze before following Wang Lin. Greed's second origin soul's eyes were filled with cold intent, and he said, in a hoarse voice, "Damn beast!" He waved the thunder hammer in his hand, and it began to glow red. He quickly chased after Wang Lin as the red light on the hammer became stronger and stronger. Finally, the hammer started releasing a blood-colored light. As Wang Lin was escaping, he suddenly felt powerful thunder behind him, causing his even hair to tingle. The thunder beast also became serious. It looked back and let out low growls. What spirit exactly is Greed's second origin soul? Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. The resistance was getting stronger, but Ling Tianhu's sword energy was very strong. Wang Lin wasn't affected at all with the sword energy opening the path. He moved like lightning as he rushed downward. Greed's second origin soul chased closely after Wang Lin. The distance between them constantly changed as they charged toward the bottom. However, the closer they got to the bottom, the stronger the resistance became. In the end, their speed slowed down. Greed's second origin soul slowly said, "Celestial destroying thunder." He waved the hammer in his hand, and the red light on the hammer flew out as a ray of lightning. It didn't charge toward Wang Lin or the thunder beast, but instead drilled into the cliff of the abyss. Wang Lin's pupils suddenly shrank, and he suddenly felt a sense of crisis. At this moment, he grabbed the thunder beast without any hesitation and put it back into his bag. All of the life seals gathered on his body, and at the same time he took out a large amount of blood jades. He crushed them all. These blood jades came from Yao Shishui. Now that he crushed them, The thick, blood-colored light immediately surrounded him, forming layers and layers of protection. Almost at the moment Wang Lin finished all of this, a flash of red light came from the side of the cliff. Red dots suddenly appeared on the cliff's surface. These dots became larger and faster at the same time. Then the dots suddenly burst out from the wall and formed a net of red lightning. The red lightning around Wang Lin immediately pierced through the shield of bloodlight, creating loud bangs. Some even reached Wang Lin and was stopped by the life seals. Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy. He slapped his bag of holding and the three swords appeared. After infusing Ling Qianhu's sword energy into them, Wang Lin pointed at Greed's second origin soul, and the swords charged toward Greed's second origin soul. Since you want to fight, let us fight. Wang Lin no longer tried to escape. Although this was very close to the abyss, the resistance here was simply too big, so it would be difficult to pass. Adding on how vicious this second origin soul was, Wang Lin was angered. The three sword formed a formation and charged out. The mouse, pig, and sheep evil spirits emerged and fused with Ling Qianhu's sword energy. They pierced through the lightning net and gave off thick sword energy as they stabbed toward Greed's second origin soul. Greed's second origin soul shined brightly, and its eyes became serious. He slammed the hammer in the air, and then lightning dragons appeared and started circling around him. When the three swords arrived, the three evil spirits flew out and began fighting with the lightning dragons. The three swords circled around and suddenly stabbed forth. However, they were blocked by the lightning dragons and weren't able to stab into the second origin soul. If Ling Qianhu's sword energy wasn't there, Greed's second origin soul wouldn't care so much. However, the sword energies inside the swords made him very cautious, as he couldn't allow the sword energies to enter his body. He decided to constantly use the lightning dragons to weaken the sword energies. A mark gradually appeared between the eyebrows of Greed's second origin soul as he waved the thunder hammer. This mark was very deep and flashed slowly. Wang Lin was covered by the bloodlight. Without Ling Qianhu's sword energy, he could feel the powerful resistance force below him. He flew upward, borrowing the resistance force from the tide abyss. He moved at a speed several times faster than before as he flew through the lightning net and charged straight at the second origin soul. The majority of the bloodlight around him had already dissipated. He had to constantly crush blood jades to continue protecting himself. If there was no bloodlight to act as a shield, he would be facing a life and death trial inside this lightning net, even if he used 1 million life seals. Back then, the gray-robed also said that the defense of the life seals was extremely powerful, and this is true when facing ordinary spells. However, when facing someone stronger than me, it's simply one be enough. Either the celestial slaughter art is imperfect, or the gray-robed ulcer deceived me. He immediately saw the mark between Greed's second origin soul's eyebrows. That is the seal Greed uses to control the second origin soul. I need to smash it! Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The lightning net was too dense, and it closed in as he moved, making the net even more powerful. However, at this moment, Greed's second origin soul's eyes became cold, and the lightning net around Wang Lin immediately contracted. Countless rays of lightning began to gather toward Wang Lin. At this moment, Wang Lin gave up on his defense. His eyes became red and he shouted, very well, either I kill you or I die today. The three swords moved even faster. It was as if they felt Wang Lin's killing intent. Ling Qianhu's sword energy spread out from the three swords. Stop! A loud roar came from Wang Lin. At this moment, the celestial spell, Stop, was used by Wang Lin at full power. Greed's second origin soul's arm suddenly paused. Wang Lin's eyes glowed brightly, and he shouted, Kill! In an instant, the three swords' auras reached their peaks and moved through the lightning dragons. All three swords stabbed into Greed's second origin soul and pierced his body. Ling Qianhu's sword energy charged into Greed's second origin soul without any hesitation and began to rampage inside his spirit body. Greed's second origin soul's body trembled, and the seal between his eyebrows flickered like crazy. The seal spread all over his body, trying to resist this destructive force. At this moment, the lightning net contracting toward Wang Lin suddenly collapsed. Wang Lin rushed out and slapped his bag of holding. The devilish amour immediately appeared over his body. The devilish energy spread out, and he suddenly raised his finger. The demonic finger was used, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body transformed. At the same time, Wang Lin pointed again, and the underworld finger was used. The moment the underworld finger appeared, the underworld river appeared as well and charged out along with the underworld finger. Wang Lin closed in with the help of the two spells. His speed increased with the help of the resistance force. Wang Lin arrived next to Greed's second origin soul and pressed the two spells into him. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted, "Explode for me!" The seal between Greed's second origin soul's eyebrows flashed violently, trying to return back to normal. However, Wang Lin's two spells landed another fatal blow, so the seal collapsed. Along with the seal, the body of Greed's second origin soul also began to collapse. Countless cracks appeared on its crystal body. However, just at this moment, Wang Lin's expression changed. He recalled the three swords and quickly retreated. A desolate aura spread out like crazy from the cracks of the second origin soul, and there was an unimaginable aura leaking out from the cracks. It was the aura of a beast. The three evil spirits on the three swords immediately trembled. At the abyss exit, Greed, who was fighting with Zhou Yi, trembled violently and coughed out a mouthful of blood. He looked below him with an aghast expression. This. Greed's second origin soul exploded with a bang, but at the moment it collapsed, a green light shot out from between its eyebrows. A thick, desolate aura spread out from the green light. The moment the green light appeared, it turned into a green dragon. Lightning circulated all over this dragon. It was extremely terrifying. This was an ancient thunder dragon, and it was very famous. Back then, when Greed was only at the foundation establishment stage, he fell down a cliff and found a baby thunder dragon. He carefully hid it, and when he encountered danger, the aura from the thunder dragon would protect its master. Later, Greed brought a wasted magical treasure in an ordinary city. However, after some research, it turned out that this treasure wasn't a waste, but an ancient magical devil. Greed used it to brand and seal the thunder dragon so that it could never awaken and remain under his control. It wasn't until he reached the ascendant stage that he refined it into his second arranged soul. However, he didn't dare to stimulate it too much, lest it awaken and escape from his control. This green dragon opened its eyes and let out a real dragon roar. At this moment, the sky changed color and the clouds gathered. Even the resistance from the tide abyss was pushed away. Wang Lin revealed a bitter smile. Without any hesitation, he borrowed the resistance force to push himself back up and stayed far away from this green dragon. Greed, this person is really full of treasures. Even his second origin soul is a dragon. The furnace that 2C refined back then also landed in his hands. His cultivation level is also high, so he can be considered someone who has the heaven's own luck. Wang Lin bitterly smiled. He didn't know that back when Greed was only 8 and hadn't even started cultivating, he found a 500-year-old Solomon's seal tooth while playing. He took it home and ate it after breaking it. Not only was he not killed by the surge of energy inside it, but it laid his foundation as a cultivator. As the green dragon let out a roar, its cold eyes swept the area and landed on Wang Lin. The hatred from before was still there. Although it had just awakened, it still remembered what happened. Its body turned into a ray of green light and charged directly at Wang Lin. After charging into the bottom of the tide abyss, Wang Lin saw the bottomless pit at the center. Suction force was coming from the hole, and it was covered in mist. The dragon's roar and the fishy smell from its mouth came from behind him. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile as he stared at the bottomless pit. He clenched his teeth and suddenly jumped into the pit. At this moment, the green dragon rushed over while roaring. The dragon had just awakened, so its mind was still in a state of chaos. It was completely acting on instinct, and when it saw Wang Lin jump into the pit, it also rushed in without any hesitation. The suction force here was very different from outside. It was much stronger. This wasn't Wang Lin's first time in here, so he knew this. After jumping into the pit, he activated the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and stayed close to the side of the cliff. The ancient god that Wang Lin got his inheritance from as a type of plant. 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter 649, The Other Side of Peril is Endless Opportunity. However, the green dragon didn't know. After it jumped into the pit, it immediately became aware of the suction and began to struggle. Lightning bolts shot from its body, and bolts of lightning as big as a bucket landed on the cliff. large amounts of rocks were blown off from the sides of the pit. The deeper inside the pit, the stronger the suction force became. The green dragon struggled as the lightning around him resisted the suction force. Just as it was about to charge out, its head suddenly turned and saw Wang Lin, who was carefully controlling his speed along the wall below it. The dragon suddenly let out a roar. It gave up on escaping and charged straight at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy, and he secretly cursed. This dragon didn't even know the danger it was facing. It felt the incredible suction force and still didn't run. Instead, after it saw Wang Lin, it gave up the opportunity to leave. There is this much hatred. Wang Lin stopped the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and was immediately pulled by the suction. He quickly sank, causing the green dragon to miss, and then it chased after Wang Lin. One person and one dragon went down the pit and gradually went deeper and deeper. Wang Lin immediately became aware that the suction coming from the bottom was becoming stronger, as if a storm was brewing. A roar came from behind Wang Lin as the green dragon opened its mouth. A giant ball of lightning came out and shot straight at Wang Lin. The ball of lightning moved with the might of an army and smashed toward Wang Lin like divine retribution. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he was about to dodge. However, the incoming ball of lightning suddenly paused before moving out of its original flight path and went slightly down. Wang Lin's expression changed, and he immediately felt an unimaginable suction force coming from below him. At this moment, he no longer hesitated. He slapped his bag of holding and the three swords flew out. They formed a formation and stabbed into the wall, reinforcing each other. Wang Lin's hand tightly gripped onto a sword. At the instant he grabbed onto the sword, the suction from below him suddenly erupted. The first thing to change directions was the ball of lightning. It went straight down and was sucked into the depths of the pit. The ball of lightning gave off light that lit up the lower part of this pit. Wang Lin looked down and only saw a bottomless pit. Soon, the light faded and the ball of lightning disappeared. The ancient thunder dragon was startled, and for the first time, fear appeared in its eyes. It no longer tried to swallow Wang Lin but struggled to fly upwards. It was afraid. In its ancient memory inheritance, it had seen something similar before. It let out a fierce roar and lightning covered its body. It managed to resist some of the suction force around it and flew up 30 feet. Wanna run? Wang Lin's eyes became cold. If it wasn't for the thunder dragon, how could he be forced to come inside here? If it wasn't for the thunder dragon naively chasing him down the pit, he would have already left. Now, at this distance, it was simply impossible for Wang Lin to rush out. Stop for me! Wang Lin let out a roar as the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged and activated the celestial stop spell. If it was in the past, even if the thunder dragon was stopped, it would be only for an instant and it wouldn't care. However, right now, it was completely different. The thunder dragon's body paused for a moment. It let out an unwilling roar and was pulled down by the huge suction force for more than 100 feet. You won't be able to run. Wang Lin's eyes become cold. His body was being pulled down by the suction force. As he rapidly sank, the three swords that were inside the wall were dragged down as well, creating 3 deep cuts in the wall. Stop! Wang Lin activated the spell again. The thunder dragon struggled and the lightning flickered like crazy. It was trying to fly back up. If it wasn't for Wang Lin, it really could have rushed back out. However, every time it rushed up a bit, Wang Lin would immediately stop it. The thunder dragon was surrounded by the suction force, so no matter how much it struggled, it was useless. Due to the suction force, all of the attacks it threw at Wang Lin couldn't even get near him before they were pulled into the pit. It could only stare at Wang Lin while it despaired and was pulled into the pit. Just at this moment, the suction force suddenly increased. This suction force was several times stronger than before and pulled like crazy. Wang Lin felt like his arms were going to be torn off, but he clung to the sword. The 3 swords grinded against the wall, leaving behind deep cuts. However, this suction force was too great, so the buffer created by the 3 swords was rapidly dissipating. Sensing the crisis, Wang Lin clenched his teeth and immediately sent a part of his divine sense into his bag of holding. The celestial sword and half-moon blade immediately flew out. They stabbed into the wall under Wang Lin's feet. Wang Lin stood on the 2 swords and rapidly sank. Sounds of friction echoed in the pit as 5 deep cuts were dragged down the wall along with Wang Lin. Looking at the thunder dragon now, even though it was struggling, it still sank like a meteor. It couldn't even keep its shape. it had been stretched into a long stream of green gas. There were faint green lights coming from the green gas. The green gas had been sucked deep into the pit, and it faintly lit up the surroundings. Go down, that strange female voice came from Wang Lin's bag into his mind again. Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy as he looked down, but his expression changed. Borrowing the light from the green gas, he could vaguely see a shadow sticking out horizontally. At this moment, the green light illuminated this shadow. Wang Lin was able to see that it was a large rock sticking out from the wall. This rock was about 100 feet wide, and there was a transfer array on it. Before Wang Lin could take a closer look, the green light weakened. Without the light, this large rock retreated back into the darkness. Transfer array? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Unfortunately, he couldn't spread out his divine sense, or else he could have seen everything clearly. Wang Lin suddenly felt that the celestial sword was gone from under his feet, and shortly after, the half-moon blade did the same. There is a crack. Wang Lin immediately felt ecstasy, and without any hesitation he swung toward the wall. His body immediately entered the hole in the wall. As expected, there was a 10-foot crack in the wall, and Wang Lin quickly entered it. After entering, he immediately retrieved the 3 swords, the celestial sword, and the half-moon blade as fast as possible. When the thunder dragon soul that had already turned into green gas saw Wang Lin enter the crack, it immediately began to struggle. As the green gas churned, it condensed into a dragon once more. It let out a roar and rushed toward the crack Wang Lin was in. This time it didn't want to devour Wang Lin. It wanted to enter the crack to avoid the suction force. It activated all the thunder energy in its body as it charged toward the crack like crazy. However, the suction force was too powerful, so it was almost impossible for it to reach the crack. The thunder dragon revealed a decisive gaze, then its body suddenly split in half. The bottom half was sucked deep into the pit, while the upper half used that moment to rush toward the crack. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Just as he felt relief inside the crack, he saw the thunder dragon coming over. At this moment, all he needed was one stop spell, and it would make the thunder dragon despair as it was sucked away by the suction force. The thunder dragon was obviously aware of this, so it opened its mouth to spit out a ball of lightning. If it was successful in spitting it out, Wang Lin would naturally have no place to dodge. Everything would depend on who was faster in activating their spell between this dragon and human. However, Wang Lin had other plans. He personally saw the dragon give up half its body, and more than half of its current power was being used to resist the suction force. It could be said that right now was the thunder dragon's weakest moment. Wang Lin clenched his teeth, and without any hesitation he closed his eyes and his origin soul flew out. Just as this thunder dragon entered the crack and was about to spit out the ball of lightning, Wang Lin's origin soul devoured the thunder dragon. Wang Lin was once a soul devourer that could devour every soul in the world. However, as his cultivation level increased, he gradually stopped using this technique. At this moment, his origin soul expanded greatly. The thunder dragon was completely stunned when Wang Lin devoured it. After devouring the ancient thunder dragon's soul, Wang Lin's origin soul immediately returned to his body. At this moment, there was a powerful explosion inside his soul. Even with only half of its spirit body, the power of the ancient thunder dragon was still unimaginable. After Wang Lin devoured it, he activated the Soul Devourer's spell to quickly absorb it. Bursts of lightning moved inside and outside of Wang Lin's origin soul, displaying the might of thunder and lightning. It even penetrated into his flesh and bones. The suction force didn't have much effect inside the crack, so Wang Lin put all his attention into absorbing the thunder dragon. His origin soul was constantly growing. This wasn't a growth in quantity but in quality. Wang Lin's origin was surrounded by lighting. There was a long, ancient thunder dragon extending inside his origin soul like veins. This thunder dragon's expression was extremely painful, and there was even trace of ferocity on its face. Strands of branches extended from the thunder dragon toward all corners of Wang Lin's origin soul. The power of the thunder dragon was changing Wang Lin's origin soul in a mysterious way. Even people like the Ulcer wouldn't dare to devour an ancient thunder dragon. This was because this thunder dragon wasn't like any other ancient beast. Rumor had it that the ancient thunder dragons were born from thunder and were the darlings of the heavens. There was even a period of time where they controlled the power of thunder for the heavens. Devouring this ancient thunder dragon was the same as devouring a sky filled with thunder. How could a cultivator's origin soul withstand this kind of thunder? However, the other side of peril was endless opportunity. Wang Lin's origin soul was surrounded by the lightning from the thunder dragon, and a large amount of thunder gathered in Wang Lin's body. As the rumbling continued, a trace of thunder appeared in Wang Lin's origin soul. His origin was in an incredible state, and it was going an earth-shaking change. This change perhaps wouldn't improve his cultivation, but it would open up endless paths for Wang Lin in the future. An origin soul that contained thunder. Even the ulcer had never seen a cultivator that had managed to achieve this. The thunder dragon inside Wang Lin's origin soul struggled intensely, affecting Wang Lin's origin soul. It hadn't given in yet, and it launched a counterattack. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the video? Wish that the like button for the video would be hit. Chapter 64, Sex Scatters. The dragon roared at Punnanzi and attacked him. Punnanzi sneered. He flicked the sword and said, "Animal, restrain yourself." The dragon's body shook and immediately lost its will. It reluctantly returned back into the sword. The sword stopped glowing. Liu Wenju and the old woman looked at each other and let out a sigh. She said, "Fine. All Hengyu sect disciples, listen to my order. Follow me off the mountain." With that, she took a look around and let out another sigh before floating up into the air. Punnanzi narrowed his eyes and said, "My Xuandao sect is going to recruit more disciples. If anyone wishes to join, they can stay here." The 10 foundation building elders' faces all turned strange. Besides the 2 who were next to the old woman, the other 8 didn't follow her. Liu Wenju's expression changed. He wanted to say something but ended up staying silent. He let out another sigh, then shook his head and stood next to the old woman. The old woman suppressed the anger in her heart and shouted, "Everyone has their own path. If anyone doesn't want to follow us, I want to force you." Among Hong Long's generation, all of the elders hesitated, and in the end, besides Huang Long, Dao Shu, and the red-faced elder, none of the other elders moved. Only those 3 moved and stood next to the 2 core formation elders. Among the dozens of inner disciples, only about 10 or so flew next to the core formation elders. Wang Zhuo hesitated for a long time. He didn't dare to look at Dao Shu as he raised his foot and put it down. Ultimately, he didn't follow. The female named Zhou hesitated for a while, but didn't follow. As for the female named Shu, she saw that Wang Zhuo didn't move, so she pulled back the steps she took forward. Wang Hao could already walk. He wryly smiled and said to Wang Lin, "Brother Taizhu, I'm not going to go anywhere. I plan on heading home and helping my dad. Don't worry, Brother Taizhu, I'll take care of your family." Wang Lin hesitated. He had too many secrets, and if he joined the Xuandao sect, there would be too many uncertain dangers. So, after pondering for a while, he started to move. At that moment, Punnanzi's eyes lit up as he stared at Wang Lin. He suddenly said, "Wang Lin, you stay." Wang Lin was stunned and respectfully said, "Senior Punnanzi, why do you want Junior to stay?" Punnanzi raised his head and said, "If I tell you to stay, you stay. What with all the questions?" Liu Wenju hesitated for a while and suddenly said, "Senior Punnanzi, this Wang Lin is my Hengyu sect's head disciple. So I would like to request Senior not to make it hard on him and let him leave with us." He had heard a few things about Wang Lin and also observed him for a bit. He was really unwilling to give up this future foundation-building disciple. Punnanzi grunted and said to Wang Lin, "The Hengyu sect only exists in name. Are you going to follow them as they drift around the world? If you join my Xuandao sect, your future will be much brighter. You decide for yourself what you want. You wouldn't want rumors to spread, would you? Rumors saying that my Xuandao sect not only stole the mountain, but the disciples as well." Punnanzi was confident that, unless this Wang Lin was retarded, he wouldn't follow the Hengyu sect. Wang Lin pondered a little. Without a word, he clasped his hands, rose into the air, and stood next to Huang Long. Punnanzi's eyes lit up. "Ungrateful brat," he said. Liu Wenju and the old woman gave Wang Lin thoughtful looks. They waited for a while longer, but after seeing all of the disciples of the Hengyu sect with their heads down, the old woman let out a sigh and said, "Fine, let us go." With that, she flew off into the distance. The other 10 or so people followed her with bitter expressions. The people of the Hengyu sect followed the 2 core formation elders and flew away from the Hengyu sect like homeless dogs. Along the way, no one said a word. Besides anger, they were filled with a sense of loss. After flying for a long time, until the sky darkened, Liu Wenju and the old woman debated for a while, then landed on the side of a mountain. The old woman let out a sigh. She looked at the people around her. Besides the 2 foundation building elders, everyone else was at the QI condensation stage. There were only 4 people from Huang Long's generation and 12 people from Wang Lin's generation. She bitterly smiled and forced herself to calm down. She said, "You guys shouldn't lose heart just because the Heng Yue sect has met this disaster. Things always change in the cultivation world. Today, he stole the Heng Yue mountain from us, but once I and Ancestor Lu reach nascent soul, we will be able to take it back." Among the 2 foundation building elders was Elder Shangguan, who observed Wang Lin in the main hall a few days ago. He let out a dry cough and said, "Ancestor Wang is correct. The more miserable we feel now, the higher our fighting spirit will be. We must carve this humiliation into our hearts. If we are successful in the future, we must take back the mountain." The other foundation building elder had a wide face and body. His face was filled with worry as he looked at the remaining disciples and said, "When disaster came, everyone flew in different directions. In the end, only you guys were willing to follow us from Heng Yue sect." He sighed. Among the inner disciples that followed, aside from Brother Zhang and Lu Song, Wang Lin didn't too know the names of any of them, but they looked familiar. There was also a little fatty, which was the person he met outside the word pavilion. Liu Wenju took a deep breath and said, with a serious expression, "There is no point in dwelling on the past. The most important thing right now is to find a place to house our sect. Many years ago, I built a house at a snake-like mountain thousands of kilometers from here. For now, let's go live there." The old woman pondered for a while. She nodded and said, "That is good. Once we reach it, we must go into closed-door training and reach nascent soul within 100 years. Liu Wenju's gaze shifted. He said to the 2 foundation building elders, Shangguan and Song Yu, "You 2 stand guard while I and Ancestor Wang recover the spiritual energy used on maintaining the formation. Then, we can carry all of you to move faster." Shangguan and Song Yu quickly did as they were told. Liu Wenju took out a few pieces of green jade. He tossed them into the air and they began to emit a green light. His hand formed a few seals, and the green jade suddenly shook and created a dome of green light that covered everything within a 20 meters radius. After that, he sat down cross-legged and held a spirit stone in his hand and began to cultivate. The old woman did the same and began to cultivate to recover her spiritual energy. Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings. Hoping to get more likes for the video. Chapter 650 Variant Origin Soul. Wang Lin's body and hair began to float into the air as if guided by some mysterious energy. Bursts of lightning came from his body and quickly scattered into the walls of the cliff. His origin soul was filled with lightning. The ancient thunder dragon was unwilling to yield, making the devouring process filled with danger. The thunder dragon continued to struggle, and the more it struggled, the stronger the lightning it gave off became. Powerful lightning caused Wang Lin's origin soul to reach a state of imminent collapse. If it wasn't for his stubborn perseverance, a normal person's origin soul would have already collapsed. Wang Lin's origin soul suddenly opened his tightly closed eyes. His eyes gave off a burst of lightning as if he was the ancient thunder dragon. He had a feeling that if his origin soul stayed inside his body would be directly affected, which would lead to his death. His origin soul immediately flew out of his body. He revealed a decisive look, and without any hesitation, his hand reached into his origin soul. He grabbed the thunder dragon and dragged out a small portion of it. The thunder dragon suddenly let out a roar, causing Wang Lin's origin soul to emit a large amount of lightning. The lightning landed on the walls, creating many crackling sounds. Holding part of the thunder dragon, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. His left hand moved, creating a large amount of restrictions that landed on that part of the thunder dragon. After doing this, Wang Lin reached into his origin soul and grabbed another section. He continued to place restrictions on it. With external forces helping his origin soul, the cycle of sealing and devouring continued. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin became completely immersed in fusing with the thunder dragon and became oblivious to the outside world. His body gradually lost its luster and slowly withered. However, it didn't die. It had entered a suspended animation state in order to ensure his vitality wasn't lost. Day by day, year by year passed. On this day, the Thunder Dragon inside Wang Lin's origin wool wasn't struggling as violently, but it was still struggling. However, there were countless restrictions flashing on its body. They stacked together and formed the seal of the dragon. Wang Lin's origin soul had gradually shrunk throughout the years. It was now only 3 feet tall, only as big as a cultivator's nascent soul. Although his origin soul had shrunk, it gave off the power of thunder. It was no longer crystal clear but emitted endless lightning bolts. It was as if there were millions of silver snakes moving inside his origin soul. Wang Lin opened his eyes and thunderous rumbling sounds echoed around him. Then 2 rays of lightning shot out from his eyes like 2 dragons and disappeared into the darkness. His origin soul moved and arrived next to his body. When Wang Lin glanced at his own body, lightning flashed across his eyes. His eyes gave off the pressure of coldness and indifference. All of the muscles on his body had already withered away, so he was like a bag of bones right now. If it wasn't for the sliver of vitality coming from between his eyebrows, this body would have already become a corpse. His origin soul floated above his body and gradually entered it. When he was entering his body, he felt a barrier blocking him. Fortunately, this barrier dissipated a moment later, so he was able to successfully enter his body. In an instant, lightning came from his body and moved throughout his body. His muscles recovered at rate visible to the naked eye. In an instant, he returned to normal, only he looked slightly thinner compared to before. Wang Lin let out a mouthful of foul air. This air was gray and also contained lightning. His eyes were as bright as a lightning bolt streak across the sky. He began to deeply ponder. This trip was very dangerous, but my harvest was beyond imagination. Although I don't know if this is good or bad, my origin soul completely transformed. Now my origin soul is more like a bolt of divine retribution lightning. Wang Lin pondered even harder. Then he raised his head and looked outside the crack. An origin soul that transformed into lightning, it is interesting. Now if someone wants to destroy my origin soul, it will be like trying to destroy divine retribution lightning. Although my cultivation is still at the early stage of ascendant after this opportunity, it gave me the power of thunder. Wang Lin raised his right hand. Lightning filled his hand and quickly formed a ball of lightning. Sound of explosions came from inside the ball of lightning. Clearly it was not very stable. A moment later, the ball of lightning collapsed. Then Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he swallowed it. There was a hint of red on his face, but it gradually returned to normal. However, what exactly is my current origin soul? Wang Lin's eyes were filled with confusion. He never thought that devouring that half of the Thunder Dragon would cause his origin soul to change in such a strange way. He wasn't able to completely absorb the Thunder Dragon. He had only managed to absorb 1/5, and the rest was sealed inside his origin soul. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin tried out all of his spells. He could still use all of his spells, including the Underworld River. Only after this did Wang Lin let out a sigh of relief. However, he immediately felt that there was a difference. Although the spells were no different from before on the surface, if one observed carefully, there was the power of thunder in all of them. A strand of very powerful thunder. Wang Lin frowned. Increasing the strength of his spells was a good thing. Also, this increase in power wasn't just a little. With his current spells, he could be standing among the top of mid-stage ascendant cultivators. Along with his magical treasures, he could even battle with late-stage ascendant cultivators. However, Wang Lin still felt like something was wrong, as if something was forgotten. He pondered for a long time, and that feeling was still there. He stood up and walked toward the exit of the crack. It was completely dark outside, and the sound of the suction force was like the wailing of ghosts. The closer he came to the exit, the stronger that voice became. Looking outside the crack, it was as if a bolt of lightning flashed across Wang Lin's mind, and he suddenly knew why he felt that something was wrong. Why was there that barrier when my origin soul tried to return to my body? Wang Lin's expression was extremely ugly. The scattered devil was still sealed in his origin soul, so it was impossible for it to be a possession. It also didn't look like his origin soul had been robbed. It seems like the problem is my origin soul. Wang Lin planned for his origin soul to leave his body again, but his expression immediately changed. My origin soul can leave my body? Wang Lin immediately took a few steps back and sat down in the lotus position. He tried several times before opening his eyes. He was not flustered, and he calmly pondered. It is still that barrier blocking my origin soul from leaving. Could this be the price after the origin soul mutated? Wang Lin took a deep breath. Forget it. Let's not think about it now. Let's have a look at this token. What kind of spell did it have to condense from the mist? Wang Lin slapped at his bag of holding and a purple token appeared in his hand. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you. Chapter 651 Gray Robe. This token was completely purple, and there was a trace of golden lighting within it. It looked like a piece of purple gold. When touching it, one could feel that it was neither wood nor gold texture. The universe was simply too big for someone to recognize every single material. Wang Lin didn't focus too much on what the token was made of and carefully looked at its appearance. There were some broken runes on the surface of the token. After a moment of hesitation, Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense and revealed a strange expression. Storage. There was a unique space inside the token. Although the space inside was filled with purple mist, it was indeed a storage device. There was only one thing inside, and that was a sword. It wasn't a celestial sword, but one of the swords from the 12 swords. After thinking about it, Wang Lin deduced that this sword came from the last Dalu sword disciple trapped inside the mist. For some reason, when that disciple was sacrificed to the token, the sword was absorbed by the token. With a thought, the sword flew out and stabbed into the ground beside Wang Lin. After carefully searching the space inside the token, Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense. He looked at the token and began to ponder. Aside from the material of this token, there is nothing surprising about it. If I hadn't seen it form from the mist directly, it would be difficult to imagine that this thing is something people like the Alzir, Ling Tianhu, and the Blood Ancestor want to steal. This token is the key to opening the cave. Only with the 4 fake caves open can the final door be opened. According to Yao Shishu, the All-Seer and company don't know that a 4th fake cave exists. But the Blood Ancestor knows this. Chenlong and Greed know that I obtained the token. However, Chenlong didn't see everything. If I were him, I would think that Greed would have taken the token in the end. After taking a deep breath, Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. Looking out of the crack at the pitch-black darkness outside, he revealed a bitter expression. Even if I got the token, what's the use when I am trapped here and can get out? There is no need to try to teleport when even people as cunning as Greed didn't teleport once. I just don't know if I can enter the cave from here. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he touched his bag of holding and a crystal appeared in his hand. After a long time, Wang Lin let out a sigh and bitterly smiled. I'm unable to activate it. He pondered a bit and looked around. This crack wasn't big, only few dozen feet wide. He was able to clearly see everything with one look. Shortly after, he stood up and arrived at the entrance of the crack. The suction force outside never stopped. After moving a little bit more forward, he could clearly feel it, and even his body showed signs of being sucked in. Wang Lin backed up. His eyes flickered. I wonder how the mosquito beast is doing right now also. What is the result of the battle between Senior Zhou Yi and Greed, however? Even if Zhou Yi won, he still won't know where I am. After all, even his sword divine sense can reach here. He looked up at the wall and his body moved as he attempted to use the earth escape spell. However, as soon as his body touched the wall, he was stopped. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin landed on the ground and slapped his bag of holding. He took out the soul flag, took out a soul, threw it at the wall, and carefully observed. That soul floated into the wall like a strand of smoke, but Wang Lin immediately felt a miserable scream from the soul. It was as if the soul that went inside was torn into pieces and was immediately sucked toward the bottom by the strong suction force. Danger spot. The bitterness in Wang Lin's eyes became even stronger. He let out a sigh and sat down on the ground in the lotus position with a gloomy expression. Shortly after, he touched his bag of holding and 3 swords, a severed arm and a skull immediately flew out. The 3 swords were from the 12 swords, and adding the one inside the token, they were the snake, horse, chicken, and dog. Wang Lin currently had 7 of the 12 swords. The 3 sword formation also flew out from Wang Lin's bag and fell beside him. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and the 7 swords immediately flew around him. He opened his mouth to spit out some origin energy. The origin energy wrapped around the 7 swords. There was an extra strand of thunder inside his origin energy. After it touched the swords, lightning moved throughout the swords. The 7 swords were also connected by lightning, forming a mysterious sword formation. 7 swords can form the 7-star sword formation. Also, with my thunder linking them, the power of the sword formation will increase by 30%. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. With his origin energy refining the swords, he no longer had to pay any attention to them. He then turned around and looked at the severed arm and head. The origin soul of the owner, and also Ling Tianhu's sword energy, were sealed inside them. Wang Lin was very experienced in refining souls and extracting the sword energy. 2 mouthfuls of origin energy allowed Wang Lin to extract Ling Tianhu's sword energy and devour it. Normally, after devouring Ling Tianhu's sword energy, his origin soul would feel waves of pain and would only stop after he recovered for a bit. However, right now, after devouring 2 sword energies in a row, not only did his origin soul not feel any discomfort, it actually felt very comfortable. After checking his origin soul and finding nothing wrong, Wang Lin wryly smiled to himself. Can this still be considered an origin soul? He once again touched his bag of holding and took out a sphere of restrictions. The small sphere grew after it came out, and by the time it landed, it was 5 feet tall already. There were countless restrictions flashing on the sphere. Wang Lin's right hand formed a seal and then pointed at the sphere. A restriction sphere began to split down the middle as if a flower was blooming, revealing a handsome man inside. This person was the Red Division of Dujian. His eyes were closed and his face was pale. After the restrictions were lifted, he opened his eyes and stared at Wang Lin. It took a long time before his empty eyes slowly regained their color. However, after checking himself, he immediately found that his origin soul had been sealed. Right now, he had basically become immortal. Wang Lin's voice was calm as he slowly said, "Senior brother Du, you can tell me Master S' secret now." Du Jian revealed a bitter expression. He looked at Wang Lin with a complex expression. After silently pondering for a bit, he said, "Even if I talked, I'm afraid it would be difficult to avoid death." Wang Lin's gaze swept Du Jian. A hint of lightning appeared in Wang Lin's eyes and penetrated Du Jian's eyes. This caused Du Jian's mind to become shocked. He pointed at Wang Lin and exclaimed, Your eyes." Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "Senior brother Du, my patience has a limit." It was as if Du Jian hadn't heard Wang Lin at all, and his eyes were filled with aghast. He still hadn't recovered from Wang Lin's gaze. Du Jian had encountered a lot of cultivators and even seen a lot of powerful cultivators. He had seen cultivators whose eyes had lightning within them. However, all of that lightning was created by spells. Although it was still lightning, it couldn't compare to the heavens' lightning. However, at that moment, the lightning from Wang Lin's eyes made him felt like he was standing below the vast sky and looking up at a thunderbolt. It was the feeling of not knowing what to do when dealing with the might of the heavens. Wang Lin frowned. He no longer wanted to deal with this nonsense, so he grabbed Du Jian and dragged him toward the opening of the crack. Near the opening, Du Jian became aware of the huge suction force. Even with his cultivation, he felt like his origin soul was about to be pulled out of his body. He began to exclaim due to the terror. "Speak!" Wang Lin's sentence was simple. There was only one word. Du Jian's expression became even paler, and the shadow of death enveloped his body. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he grabbed Du Jian and pulled him toward the opening of the crack once more. Du Jian suddenly felt the suction from outside by increased 10 times. At this moment, his origin soul was pulled out from his body and left his body. No matter how hard his origin soul struggled, it was still being slowly pulled out of his body. Du Jian's trembling body shouted, "I'll speak! I'll speak!" Wang Lin pulled back his right hand, threw Du Jian to the side, and coldly looked at him. Du Jian trembled slightly as his origin soul gradually returned to his body. His eyes contained fear as he said, "I'll tell you everything I know, but you have to promise not to kill me." Wang Lin calmly said, "It's possible to not kill you, as I have other uses for you." Du Jian took a deep breath as he looked at Wang Lin with a complex expression and said, "Swear on your Tao." Wang Lin frowned as he coldly looked at Du Jian. He slowly raised his right hand and was about to throw him toward the opening of the crack. Du Jian's body trembled and he quickly said, "I saw Master devour Sun Yun." Wang Lin's eyes glowed brightly as he silently stared at Du Jian. "I didn't see it personally, but a mountain goblin saw it. After I entered the Heavenly Fate sect, I cultivated a technique that could absorb spiritual energy from beasts. I was in the back mountains when I found a mountain goblin that was nearing the end of its life. As I was absorbing its spiritual energy, I extracted some of its memories for some reason. There was one scene from its memory from a long time ago, and that was when Master devoured Sun Yun." Wang Lin was startled. Du Jian quickly said, "In the memory, Sun Yun and Master had a huge fight, but in the end, Master used a spell that devoured Sun Yun. Then he left. This was his biggest secret. When he saw the memory that day, he was completely shocked, and at the same time, fear appeared in his heart. This was why he respected and feared the All-Seer all this time. This secretly was buried deep inside his heart, and it was the first time he had told anyone." Wang Lin asked, "What was Master S' expression like back then?" It looked like there was regret. It should be regret. Du Jian carefully recalled before hesitating as if he was thinking of something. Then he said, however, there was something strange about Master inside the mountain goblin's memory. "I have never seen Master wear gray before." Wang Lin's eyes glowed even brighter as he stared at Du Jian and said word for word, "Are you sure he was wearing a gray robe?" Du Jian nodded and said, "That's right, it was a gray robe." The second watch has come. So thankful for the praise from the new clan leader. Last night Leo started from the starting point, immediately saw a new follower. I'm ecstatic. Thank you everyone. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 652, Refining a Celestial Guard. Gray-robed All-Seer. Interesting. Wang Lin revealed a gloomy smile. He had his divine sense locked onto Du Jian since earlier, and it didn't seem like he was lying. "Master, you sure have a lot of secrets." Wang Lin's eyes became cold. "Too many secrets to make this disciple calm. It looks like I can stay at planet Tianyun anymore. If I was still there, I probably would have been devoured the moment I found out about Master's secret." Wang Lin took a deep breath. He made up his mind to quickly leave planet Tianyun. "After leaving this demon spirit land, I'll emerge with the original body and leave. The water in planet Tianyun is too deep for me." Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he looked around and let out a sigh. "I am still not sure if I can even leave this place." After Du Jian told Wang Lin his biggest secret, he had been cautiously looking at Wang Lin. He could see Wang Lin's expression changing slightly. He was clearly thinking about what he just said. Du Jian let out a breath of air. What he was most afraid of was that Wang Lin wouldn't believe him. After all, something like that was simply too strange. He looked at the crack and was confused. "Where exactly is this?" Du Jian looked at the opening of the crack, and his eyes revealed a lingering trace of fear. That feeling of his origin soul being sucked out of his body was something he would never forget. He looked at the 7 treasured swords floating in the air. Wang Lin's origin energy surrounded the swords and lightning linked the swords together. This must be Wang Lin's secret cave. This person is ruthless, so I can stay here, but unfortunately my cultivation isn't enough. If I could reach the ascendant stage. Du Jian was already half a step into the ascendant stage. However, he wasn't willing to take the last step and face the life and death trial. However, under this danger, he clenched his teeth. Although his origin soul was sealed, he was confident he could break free by borrowing the energy from the ascendant breakthrough. Achieving ascendant means a chance of living, but failing means death. Instead of waiting here for my death, let us try this gamble. Du Jian's eyes were filled with determination. This kind of determination was extremely rare for him. However, just as he was preparing himself, Wang Lin's icy gaze fell on him. It was like pouring a jug of cold water down on his head, immediately causing his determination to collapse. Wang Lin waved his right hand and the 7 swords floating in the sky flew into his hand. He put them into his bag of holding. Wang Lin, Du Jian's pupil shrank. Wang Lin calmly said, "I'll give you one chance to reach the ascendant stage. If you are successful, I'll grant you a fortune." Du Jian pondered. He didn't ask what kind of fortune. At this moment, he was clear in his heart that this Wang Lin wouldn't let him go. After a long time, He looked at Wang Lin and said, "A gentleman keeps his word." Wang Lin silently nodded. Dujian suddenly closed his eyes. Wang Lin's cultivation level was much higher than his, and he could easily kill him, so there was no need for troublesome things like this. Although he was still confused, he was at the moment of life and death, so he really didn't have time to think. "I'll gamble once." Dujian took a deep breath as he felt his already complete domain and took the last step. A heavenly origin soul gradually came from Dujian's body. This energy became stronger and stronger and easily wiped out Wang Lin's seal on Dujian's origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes were bright as he stared at Dujian and pondered. The reason why he let Dujian reach the Ascendant was to increase the success rate of making him a Celestial Guard. Wang Lin didn't forget the description of the Celestial Guard from the Jade. In fact, from the moment he caught Dujian, he had decided to refine this person into a low-quality Celestial Guard. Even though the success rate was too low, if he succeed, he would produce someone similar to a peak late-stage Ascendant Cultivator with one step into the Yin and Yang stage. This was extremely tempting for Wang Lin. The Jade also introduced some spells that could only be used by Celestial Guards. When used, those spells were extremely astonishing. If this Dujian hadn't provoked him, it would have been fine. Wang Lin would not have seized him to refine him into a Celestial Guard. However, this person revealed his killing intent toward Wang Lin, so there was no way Wang Lin would let him go. If you fail and die on the path of Tao, it can be considered a fitting death for a cultivator. If you succeed, then I'll give you a big fortune. As for whether it is successful or not will all depend on your luck. Dujian's cultivation followed the will of the heavens, unlike Wang Lin, who revolted against the heavens. Time gradually passed and the heavenly origin energy inside his body became stronger and stronger. Soon, his origin soul flew out and began fusing with the heavenly origin energy. Time passed. Over 1 hour had passed and there was still no abnormality in Dujian's origin soul. This caused Wang Lin's eyes to light up. The fusion of Dujian's origin soul lasted for 3 days. Finally, at the moment when all the heavenly origin energy was about to be fused with Dujian's origin soul, something happened. There was a small tremor that immediately ignited the origin flames. The sudden appearance of the flame looked like it wanted to burn the entire origin soul. Dujian revealed a painful struggle and Wang Lin frowned. Seeing that Dujian's origin soul was about to be burnt to ashes, Wang Lin stepped forth. He stuck his hand directly into Dujian's origin soul. At the moment his right reached in, the origin flame seemed to have found an opening. It rushed into Wang Lin's body through his right hand and charged directly toward his origin soul. In an instant, Wang Lin's origin soul was surrounded by the origin flame. However, not only was his origin soul not burnt, his origin soul actually gave off a very comfortable feeling. As Wang Lin's origin soul moved, a large amount of lightning came from within. The lightning moved within the fire, creating a scene of fire and lightning. At the same time, Wang Lin's origin soul sucked in all the fire and lightning, causing them to disappear. A suction force even appeared in Wang Lin's right hand, and a large amount of origin flame from Dujian's body was sucked into Wang Lin. After Dujian's origin soul was no longer in danger of being burned, Wang Lin immediately withdrew his right hand. He took a few steps back and began to control his origin soul to absorb the origin flame. Dujian's origin soul looked weakened as it slowly completed the final fusion with a small amount of origin energy left. He had lost too much origin energy, so even if he succeed and reach the ascendant stage, he would be forever stuck there. The only way for him to advance would be to have a fortunate encounter to recover that last bit of origin energy. Time flew by and more than 10 days passed. Dujian's origin soul and origin energy completely fused into one. His origin soul gradually integrated back into his body, and the aura of an ascendant cultivator suddenly appeared. He opened his eyes, revealing an extremely complex gaze. He knew that he had failed at the moment of reaching the ascendant stage, and that it was Wang Lin who had saved him. At this moment, a large amount of thoughts flooded his mind. After a long time, Dujian let out a sigh. Although he had reached the ascendant stage, he was the weakest kind of ascendant cultivator, and was powerless against Wang Lin. "What kind of fortune were you going to give me at this moment?" Dujian's feelings toward Wang Lin were very complex. There was both hatred and gratitude, but even more there was regret and fear. Wang Lin's tone was calm as he slowly said, "Refine the body and transform the origin soul through a secret ritual. This will allow you to have the opportunity to reach the late stage of ascendant with half a step into yin and yang stage." Dujian's heart jumped, and he bitterly asked, "For this ritual to be so heaven-defying, that means the failure rate is extremely high." "Forget it. I just want to ask one thing. Can I retain my consciousness?" Wang Lin's eyes were meaningful as he said, "If you are still alive after 1,000 years, I'll grant you freedom." There was an important condition for refining a celestial guard. If there was even the slightest resistance from the person, then the process would immediately fail. Celestial Emperor Qin Lin had many celestial guards. However, all the people he selected to refine were people who were extremely loyal to him. This was what they exchanged for a powerful cultivation, so he never had to worry about this. At this moment, Wang Lin was using the same method the Celestial Emperor used. Dujian clenched his teeth as he looked at Wang Lin and nodded. He knew that his fate was already set. If he resisted or disagreed, he would immediately die. He could only gamble once more that the ritual would be successful, and to gamble that he could survive for 1,000 years. He had no choice. If he didn't want to die, this was the only way. Wang Lin no longer wasted time. His hand formed a seal, and he began to operate the ritual. In an instant, an imprint filled with celestial spiritual energy appeared. Wang Lin pressed the imprint between Dujian's eyebrows. Dujian's body trembled as he closed his eyes and became motionless. Wang Lin's eyes became serious. The process for making a celestial guard was extremely complex. He couldn't make even a single mistake or else it would fail. Even if he didn't make a mistake, the success rate was still not high. However, Wang Lin had no other choice, so he had to risk it. The reason he was so keen on refining a celestial guard was because the celestial guard might know spells that could give him the chance to leave this place. If it fails, I can only use Yao Shishe to try again. Wang Lin spat out a mouthful of origin energy that turned into countless symbols and landed on Dujian. The first step of creating a celestial guard was to refine the body. Refining the body to the point that it couldn't be harmed by normal magical treasures. When Wang Lin saw this step, he thought of the ancient gods. The second step was to transform the origin soul, to open up the origin soul and grind it into pieces. Then he would greatly expand the origin soul at any cost, before putting it back into the body. The body would be without an origin soul, but the soul would be in the body. The third step was to refine the body's organs, wither away all the organs inside the body, so they are no longer being nourished by celestial spiritual energy. This isolates the body from the 5 senses and it will no longer feel pain. The last step is to wipe out their divine sense, but maintain their intelligence. This makes the celestial guard have no emotion, but they will still think. They have a powerful body, no emotions, and no sense of pain. They are a puppet that won't frown even if their head is cut off. This is a celestial guard, a human magical treasure that Celestial Emperor Qin Lin made that imitates the ancient gods. The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 653, Powerful Puppet. The refining continued. Several months later, inside the crack, Wang Lin took a deep breath and sucked in all the origin energy into his body. It was as if he had just devoured a cloud. After the origin energy disappeared, a lean body appeared before Wang Lin. This figure gave off a cold aura that began to spread. This figure was extremely pale, as if there was no blood in his body. That was indeed the case, as all the blood had been fused into his bones. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy and he let out a sigh. Failed again. It had been a few months since the first step of body refining had started, and Wang Lin had failed many times. Fortunately, the Jade recorded that during the first time, no matter how much he fails, the person being refined won't disappear. Looking at the puppet before him, Wang Lin frowned. According to the Jade, a variety of materials needed to be added during the refining process. Only after all the materials had fused with the body would the first step be complete. Of the 4 ranks of gold, silver, copper, and iron celestial guard, this is not even an iron rank celestial guard. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, and a large amount of low-quality magical treasures flew out. There were treasures that Wang Lin no longer used but seemed very regrettable to just throw away. I don't have any materials, but I have a lot of treasures. I believe that melting these treasures down and fusing them with the puppet will have some effect. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he immediately formed a seal. A flame appeared and surrounded these treasures. The flame burned and several of these magical treasures began to melt. Finally, almost all of the magical treasures melted, forming a black ball. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin's divine sense went into his bag and he searched around. Some more magical treasures immediately flew out and entered the ball. This could be considered a big cleaning for Wang Lin's bag of holding. A lot of treasures had gathered inside Wang Lin's bag of holding in more than years. Many of those he had only used a few times and never used again. After all, as his cultivation level increased, a lot of the treasures lost their usefulness. All of these treasures flew out and were thrown into the ball by Wang Lin. At this moment, a blue rose suddenly appeared in Wang Lin's hand. Looking at the rose, a fiery red figure seemed to have appeared before Wang Lin. He hesitated before putting the rose away and throwing another treasure into the ball instead. This process lasted for several days. The cleanup of his bag of holding caused a large amount of low, medium, and even high-quality magical treasures to be refined into liquid. As a result, the ball of liquid before him became colorful and bright. Wang Lin's right hand grabbed the ball and threw it at the puppet. Another round of refining began. Time passed by in the blink of an eye and 2 months passed. On this day, the puppet gave off a yellow light that lit up the inside of the crack. Wang Lin opened his eyes and revealed a trace of fatigue. He looked at the yellow light from the puppet and revealed a hint of disappointment. Strength of copper rank, forget it, it should be barely usable. Although the first step of the celestial guard was complete, if the second step of grinding the origin soul fails, then everything immediately fails. After it fails, this body can be possessed, so he won't be able to try to refine another origin soul. Wang Lin took a deep breath and revealed a rare look of hesitation. He looked outside the crack. During the past 6 months, the suction outside never stopped, and it looked like it was getting stronger. Wang Lin clenched his teeth. He slapped his bag of holding, and the soul flag flew out. A giant skull immediately appeared on the flag. This skull was illusory and was floating inside the flag. It was greenish-black and had no hair, as if it was the devil. Its eyes that looked unreal but also real, giving off a cold gaze. He was inside the soul flag staring at Wang Lin and letting out low growls. Most of the soul fragments inside the soul flag stayed away from this skull as if they didn't want to get close. This allowed the skull to have its own territory inside the soul flag. Only the Keelan was different. After devouring a lot of the celestial feed, it went through a series of changes. When it saw the skull roar, it suddenly began to roar as well. The skullies suddenly looked at the Keelan. Both stared at each other without flinching as they roared at each other with malicious intent. This skull was the heavenly ghost. Wang Lin's eyes were bright as he looked at the heavenly ghost. He raised his hand and immediately grabbed the heavenly ghost. The heavenly ghost was a fierce creature. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin captured it while it was weakened, it would not have been easy. The heavenly ghost let out a roar in Wang Lin's hand. It opened its mouth and wanted to devour Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and he let out a cold snort as he activated the imprint inside the heavenly ghost. This immediately caused the heavenly ghost to almost dissipate. The heavenly ghost had to retreat as it stared at Wang Lin and continued to let out low roars. The puppet's body isn't strong enough, so it will be very difficult for the origin soul to survive the second step. However, if I to take the ferocity and spirit body from the heavenly ghost but still fail, then I'll just not refine a celestial guard anymore. Wang Lin was decisive as he pressed the heavenly ghost in between the eyebrows of the puppet. Since I am going to refine a treasure, then I want a top-quality treasure. If it is only late-stage ascendant, it won't be worth of all my treasures and this heavenly ghost. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and his left hand formed a seal. He touched the spot between his eyebrows and pulled out a strand of lightning. This lightning contained fire, and he threw it into the puppet's body. Refine. The heavenly ghost was extremely vicious and was unwilling to be sealed inside the puppet to help Wang Lin refine. It let out roars and was about to charge out when a whip appeared in Wang Lin's right hand, and he whipped at the ghost. With a snap, the heavenly ghost let out a miserable scream. It felt very bitter, as that whip was its natural enemy. If it wasn't T for the fact that he had already left a deep imprinted on the scatter demon to use as his second origin soul, he would have thrown it into the puppet as well. However, using the scatter demon's soul was difficult, so it was less troublesome to use the heavenly ghost. Several months flew by. Under Wang Lin's constant refinement, the heavenly ghost and Dujan's origin soul fused and devoured each other before being grinded into pieces. However, the heavenly ghost was very strong. Even when it was in pieces, the pieces were still connected. This was the critical requirement for the second step. Almost all the failures had occurred at this moment. It wasn't T that the origin soul wasn't T strong enough. It was that the pain of having one's origin soul torn apart was not something ordinary people could endure. Once the origin soul relaxed, it would die. Even if they didn't T relax, most on T reached the state where the origin soul was still connected after being torn to pieces. Only those with powerful minds could withstand this process. This was comparable to those who revolted against the heaven. This was why those cultivators who had found their own Tao had a higher success rate of being refined into celestial guards. Using more than half a year, Wang Lin refined his first celestial puppet. Although the success rate was very low, with the addition of the heavenly ghost, the success of the origin soul refining was no longer relying on luck. Even for Wang Lin, unless he used the scatter demon's soul, he wouldn't be able to refine a second celestial guard. Wang Lin revealed a glimmer of excitement. He took deep breath and mentally calmed himself. He looked at the skinny puppet giving off a yellow light before him. He could feel a connection that would let him control it as he wished. Celestial Emperor Qin Lin would naturally not allow any celestial guard to rebel. During the refining process, countless methods to control the puppets were placed. Wang Lin had been refining it with his origin energy for a long time, so his control over the puppet had already reached its peak. Although the heavenly ghost was unruly, it had been sealed during the refining process and fused with the puppet. Wang Lin squeezed out a drop of blood and flicked it at the puppet. The blood landed between the puppet's eyebrows and fused with the puppet. Then the puppet's eyes suddenly opened. This was a pair of empty eyes. Although this was the case, there was a trace of intelligence inside. The stage of yin and yang, Wang Lin's divine sense immediately swept over the puppet. It had an aura similar to Situ Nan. Although it was not as strong as Situ Nan, it was not that much weaker. Wang Lin let out a laugh and admired Celestial Emperor Qin Lin greatly. This person was very intelligent to create this method for creating puppets. Although because the Celestial Guard's origin soul had fused with its body, it couldn't use a lot of spells and couldn't match a real yin and yang cultivator. However, there were several spells prepared specially for celestial guards. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. In addition, I have prepared a gift for this celestial guard. Wang Lin's right hand touched the spot between his eyebrows and a large amount of gray gas came out. 1,000,000 strands of slaughter energy instantly entered the puppet. The puppet's eyes suddenly gave off the path of slaughter. After flashing a few times, it was gradually hidden, but its eyes became even more fierce. After doing all of this, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the jade flew out. He pressed the jade between the puppet's eyebrows. There was a burst of light and countless symbols seemed to flash across the celestial guard's eyes. After a long time, the jade fell and returned back to Wang Lin. Wang Lin calmly said, "Conceal." The celestial guard's body flickered, then it suddenly turned into nothing and moved behind Wang Lin. There was no light, so naturally there was no shadow as well. However, Wang Lin knew that the celestial guard was hiding in his shadow. There is a chance of leaving here with the celestial guard's abilities. Although this place is a dangerous spot, because it is a dangerous spot, it is also safe. Wang Lin began to ponder. Shortly after, he slapped his bag of holding, and a large sword flew out. This sword was as big as a door sign. "Wealth, my first sword. What secrets do you have?" Wang Lin slowly rubbed the sword. He calmed his heart, and his mind slowly entered it. The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. Chapter 654. The Hidden Danger of the Celestial Slaughter Art. It was pitch black outside, and the roar of wind could be heard from inside the crack. The crack seemed like it was a world of its own, and the roar from outside was the only sound in the world. The endless suction force came from the pit as if it wanted to devour everything. Wang Lin sat in the lotus position inside the crack, looking out into the darkness. He seemed to have fused with the darkness. All that was left was the occasional lightning that flashed across his eyes that light up the crack. Being trapped here caused a sense of loneliness to gradually appear in his head. It was as if he was isolated from the world and forgotten by everyone. The only thing that accompanied him were his memories of his 800 years of cultivation. Lonely people always remember every single person that appeared in their life. Wang Lin's loneliness deepened as he recalled the past. It was as if he was hiding in a certain time, recalling the past or hiding in a secret location, thinking about someone he cared about. A mutter came from Wang Lin in the dark. I wonder if anyone is cleaning Father S and Mother S tomb. A small white ball was floating before Wang Lin. The light from the ball was very weak, so weak that it couldn't light anything up in this darkness. However, there was a warmth coming from the white ball. The warmth moved through Wang Lin's eyes and into his heart. Like a soft whisper, it gently filled Wang Lin's loneliness. There was always a faint figure inside the small ball that silently accompanied Wang Lin. Together they withstood the darkness and the howling. Even if the sky and heaven and earth shattered, the sea dried up, or the rocks decayed, that figure would always be there for Wang Lin through the ages. Even in reincarnation it would accompany him. The inside of the crack was still cold. It was as if all the warmth inside had been sucked away through the opening of the crack. However, with the existence of the white ball, the warmth in Wang Lin's heart filled his body and seemed eternal. Wang Lin, who had fused with the darkness, raised his hand and the white ball slowly landed in his palm. The white ball flickered and gave off a gentle light. This made Wang Lin experience the long-lost feeling of happiness. Everyone's happiness is different. My happiness is to accompany my parents. To accompany Wang Lin's eyes were filled with bitterness. That happiness was so extravagant and difficult. No one knew that deep within the demon spirit land, inside this bottomless pit, there was a man struggling against fate and the loneliness in his heart. Wang Lin had sat inside this crack for 3 years. It wasn't that he didn't want to leave, but during these 3 years, the suction force outside reached an unimaginable degree. More than 2 years ago, when Wang Lin was examining wealth, the suction from the pit suddenly increased violently. Now, more than half of the crack was affected by the suction force. The Celestial Guard's spell originally gave him 60% chance of leaving, but with the sudden increase in suction force, it immediately went down to 20%. Wang Lin didn't lose hope, but calmly waited the next 2 years. After his cultivation reached the ascendant stage, his progression slowed down. After all, the ascendant stage was the peak of the first step. Even with how vast the cosmos was, how many people had reached the peak of the first step? Aside from those people favored by the heavens, who didn't spend countless years to reach this peak. Wang Lin's talent was very ordinary. If it wasn't for his determination and some special experiences, it would have been very difficult for him to reach this point. Mid-stage ascendant, late-stage ascendant, and peak late-stage ascendant were 3 chokes that blocked countless cultivators and depleted countless people's lives. They were 3 mountains that blocked Wang Lin's path. In these 2 years, Wang Lin used a calm heart to slowly comprehend what was inside wealth. There was only one sword tactic inside wealth, just one. Heaven chop! One day after the 2 years, Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense from wealth. Wealth completely disappeared as if it had completed its lifetime goal of passing on its inheritance and returned to where it came from. The only thing that remained in Wang Lin's heart was the shocking sentiment that he had comprehended for 2 years. After that, what waited Wang Lin was endless loneliness and silence. He spent every day sitting in the lotus position and looking quietly at the darkness outside. The sound from the suction roared in his ears while he looked at the darkness and sat there motionlessly. A soft sigh came from Wang Lin's bag of holding. His bag of holding opened on its own, and a scroll floated out. The scroll opened up in the air. The figure of a woman slowly appeared inside the scroll. Wang Lin didn't look at the scroll. There wasn't even a trace of surprise on his face. There was endless calmness on his face. The moment before the scroll appeared, he closed his palm, and the small white ball entered his body. Go down he couldn't see the front side of the woman, but her voice slowly spread. Her voice was like mist as it echoed in the crack. Wang Lin didn't speak. His finger formed a sword and swung down. This action was very simple, but Wang Lin's body was in a mysterious mental state. After that simple swing, the scroll immediately closed and no more sound came from inside it. Wang Lin withdrew his finger. After looking at the scroll, he grabbed it and threw it into his bag of holding. During these 3 years, the woman inside the scroll had appeared a total of 4 times. Every time she appeared, she gave off this vague call. Wang Lin wasn't too curious about what was at the bottom of the pit. His calm never disappeared. He didn't even check the mysterious transfer array below him a second time. Before he had enough strength, curiosity was the deadliest thing that could obliterate all existence. Wang Lin was waiting for the day when the suction force outside the crack weakened. There was no rule to the suction in this pit. If the suction could suddenly increase 2 years ago, then it could also suddenly decrease in a few years. He just needed to wait. Croaking sounds appeared next to Wang Lin. He lowered his head and his eyes lit up. Beside him was a palm-sized blue toad. This was the Thunder Toad. 1 year ago, the Thunder Toad awakened, so its body was now this size. The Thunder Toad was able to feel the change in Wang Lin the most. After it awakened, it refused to go back into the bag of holding and just stayed next to Wang Lin. Wang Lin suddenly shot out a bolt of lightning from his finger toward the Thunder Toad. The Thunder Toad opened its eyes and its tongue suddenly extended forth and pulled the lightning into its mouth. A rumbling sound came from the toad's belly, and it revealed a comfortable expression. Wang Lin closed his eyes and immersed himself in his Tao. There were 2 parts to his Tao. The first was the underworld river, and the second was forming the soul of the underworld river. However, the so-called soul of the underworld river was merely just millions of soul fragments from the soul flag condensed together. It was still missing killing intent. Although the heavenly ghost had the viciousness, it wasn't enough for it to become the soul for Wang Lin's underworld river. This was because it was only vicious but lacked killing intent. A true soul for the underworld river is not the powerful kind. Most often it is the simple and weak souls that contain the most amount of ferocity and killing intent. Wang Lin pondered. If I can leave this place, I'll need to pay a visit to the mortal world to extract ferocity and killing intent to refine my own soul for my underworld river. Wang Lin opened his eyes. He looked outside the crack and slowly stretched out his right hand. His fingertips slowly reached toward the dividing line inside the crack. Although this dividing line was still within the cave, the moment his fingertips went past the line, he could feel the pain of his body being pulled. Ripples began to appear on his skin, and even his nails felt like they were being pulled off. I have been trapped here, but this gave me a chance to comprehend the power of the heavens and earth, a chance to reach the 3rd step in my Tao. Although Wang Lin's eyes were calm, there was a hint of coldness in them. But before this, I must completely eliminate the issue in my body. Wang Lin withdrew his hand. This hand was completely numb and he had lost feeling in it completely. To be safe, he had stored all of the celestial slaughter art inside the puppet. The celestial slaughter art was a very important spell for Wang Lin. He only gave it up after struggling with the decision for a long time. Before, when he was cultivating the celestial slaughter art, Wang Lin gained the heart of slaughter. At the start, the heart of slaughter didn't change, even when Wang Lin gave all the slaughter energy to the puppet. However, after 3 years, which was several months ago, Wang Lin felt that the heart of slaughter had changed. This kind of change would make Wang Lin go crazy, like when he absorbed all those celestial ascension fruit zone. It would even give him the urge to immediately take back all the slaughter energy. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Then he revealed a decisive gaze and took a step. This step brought him past the dividing line. Powerful suction force suddenly tore at Wang Lin's body to drag him out of the crack. Wang Lin activated the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and slowly sat down. While resisting the suction force, he was slowly feeling the change of the suction force. There was a cold energy inside the suction force that entered his body. This chill wasn't too strong and could be dispersed with celestial spiritual energy. After sitting there for a few days, Wang Lin took another step. This time he was at a position where the suction was even greater. All the blood in his body slowed down as if it was about to be pulled out of his body. Still not enough. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Countless mosquito beasts filled up the space next to the entrance to the bottomless pit. They didn't dare go too close, as the suction force was too powerful. If they got too close, they would be sucked into the pit. Among this herd of mosquitoes there was a mosquito beast giving off a violent, purple light. Wherever it flew, the other mosquitoes made way for it, and it could cause the other mosquitoes to tremble with just a cry. However, this purple mosquito beast had an anxious expression as it wandered around the entrance to the pit for 3 years. There were several instances where it wanted to go into the pit, but after looking at its companions, it stopped. Bursts of cries would come out from its mouth and echo around the area like someone separated from their family calling out their family members' names. The last 2 days of the month are upon us, wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Right now, it's about doubling the likes for the VIDEO. Very grateful and will return the favor. Chapter 655, the third ability. The powerful suction from outside was pulling at Wang Lin's body. The opening to the crack was like the mouth of a beast that wanted to devour Wang Lin. The suction was so powerful that his clothes and hair were being pulled toward the crack. There were uneven bumps under Wang Lin's skin. It was his blood and flesh being affected by the suction force. Wang Lin sat in the lotus position for 7 days. During these 7 days, he got used to the degree of suction at this spot. On this day, he opened his eyes and took another step. He stepped directly into the area within 10 feet of the opening of the crack. The powerful suction suddenly surrounded him. Wang Lin's body tilted slightly as if there was a pair of invisible hands dragging him. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he slowly sat down. He adjusted himself to resist the suction. The blood flow in his body had almost stopped. If it wasn't for the celestial spiritual energy inside him, many parts of his body would be injured right now. Still not enough. Wang Lin pondered for a moment before stopping the celestial spiritual energy inside his body. As soon as he did so, he was pulled out of the crack. At the moment his body arrived at the edge of the crack, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding. The 7 swords immediately flew out and formed a formation. All 7 swords fell like arrows and stabbed into the ground around Wang Lin. Strands of lightning connected the 7 swords and held Wang Lin in place. The amount of lightning between the swords increased until it formed a net that wrapped around Wang Lin. Wang Lin slowly sat down inside the 7-star sword formation. He was already sitting at the edge of the crack. The cold aura filled the area and the loud whistling of the suction force echoed in his ears. Wang Lin's origin soul was already grabbed by the suction force and seemed to show signs of being sucked out. However, at this moment, the barrier that appeared before appeared once more, trapping his origin soul inside his body. Aside from his origin being pulled, even the slaughter intent seemed to condense and was gradually being pulled out. This slaughter intent came from the heart of slaughter. It formed into red light and could be seen under Wang Lin's skin. After a long time, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he moved forward 3 feet. Even the 7 swords moved with him. The suction force increased once more, and another red line appeared under Wang Lin's skin. The powerful suction force surrounded Wang Lin's 7 swords, causing them to let out bursts of sword hymns. The spirits inside the sword came out and merged together. They didn't stay in one form but constantly changed shape to resist the suction force. In addition to this, the lightning connecting the 7 swords crackled as the swords linked closer together. The 7 swords seemed to have fused with the ground as they moved forward. As Wang Lin moved forward, more and more red lines appeared under his skin. They became dense and appeared everywhere, making his entire body red. There were so many red lines that if one were to count them all, there would be 1 million. Exactly the same as the amount of slaughter energy. The red lines under Wang Lin's skin flashed, but his mind was calm and he took a deep breath. At this moment, he reached the edge of the crack, but it was still not enough to force the slaughter intent out of his body, only enough to expose it. Looking at the world of darkness outside the crack, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. This light allowed him to see 200 feet down to a rock that was sticking out from the wall. The ancient transfer array was on this rock. After silently calculating for a bit, Wang Lin jumped out of the crack. His figure moved like lightning as he charged straight for the big rock 200 feet away. The 7-star sword formation followed Wang Lin out of the crack. The powerful suction force from the bottom of the pit immediately increased like crazy. The suction force here was countless times stronger, and in an instant some of the red lines were pulled out of Wang Lin's body. The moment the red lines left Wang Lin's body, they began to wiggle as if they were struggling. However, they all immediately turned into red gas and disappeared into the bottom of the pit. At the same time, the 7 sword formation spun rapidly around Wang Lin. The speed of the spinning reached an extreme speed, creating a powerful vortex. The vortex created a pushing force, and the force became stronger and stronger. Wang Lin, still inside the sword formation, took a step toward the large rock. He was completely focused and didn't want to be distracted. If he were to make one mistake, he would be sucked into the deep pit. The surrounding area had dense, cold aura, and the suction force was even more amazing. It was as if there was a large hand pressing down from above and a large hand mercilessly pulling from below at the same time. The whistling was like the roar of the master of this place. The speed of the 7-star formation had reached a certain limit, but the force it produced wasn't enough to resist the suction. Wang Lin's body was pulled down along with the sword formation. At this moment, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and a black figure suddenly appeared under his feet. This figure seemed closely connected to Wang Lin, and it began to mutter and form a seal with its hands. In an instant, the black figure created a powerful tornado that was powerful enough to stop the suction force for a moment. It carried Wang Lin and the sword formation toward the giant rock. After stepping on the large rock, Wang Lin let out a breath of relief. The combination of the sword formation and the puppet could resist the suction force, but not for a long period of time. Wang Lin sat down on the rock. He didn't have any time to study the transfer array on the rock, so he focused on forcing the red lines out of his body. His eyes lit up and he waved his hand. The tornado suddenly disappeared into the puppet that was hiding in Wang Lin's shadow. The 7 swords spun rapidly around Wang Lin after the tornado disappeared. Without the tornado, Wang Lin once again felt the incredible suction force. He clenched his teeth and the veins on his face bulged. He looked rather ferocious at the moment. Even more red lines in his body were pulled out. They seemed to have intelligence as they struggled, but ultimately they were all pulled out of Wang Lin's body. These red lines all exploded into red mist and disappeared. It was as if Wang Lin had suddenly grown red fur, as countless wiggling red lines were pulled partially out of his body. This scene was extremely strange. As the red lines were pulled out one by one, the red mist before Wang Lin never ceased to appear. At the moment one cloud of red mist was pulled away, another would appear. This repeated over and over again. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin's skin was no longer all red and gradually revealed some skin color. Wang Lin let out a deep breath and suddenly opened his eyes. The puppet appeared from his shadow and once more created a tornado, then it brought him back to the crack. After struggling to enter the crack, Wang Lin arrived in a place inside the crack without any suction force. He was weakened. It was as if he had just battled against a late-stage ascendant cultivator for 10 days and 10 nights. In the past several days, Wang Lin had to resist the power of the suction force, manipulate the 7-star sword formation, force the red lines out of his body, and also cycle celestial spiritual energy inside his body to stabilize himself. Doing all of this at once made Wang Lin extremely tired. He knew that he might make a mistake and doom himself if he continued, so he decided to simply rest first. And once he was in peak continue, he would continue. After adjusting himself for a bit, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He controlled the 7-sword formation and walked out of the crack once more. This continued for several months. On this day, Wang Lin had been trapped here for 4 years. He was sitting on the large rock in the pit, and under the skin in his right hand there was a red line. The red line trembled under the suction force. It seemed to let out an unwilling cry as it was pulled out through the fingertip and turned into red mist. This was the last strand of red line inside his body. The moment it was forced out, Wang Lin opened his. His eyes revealed how tired he was, but there was a flash of coldness as well. Celestial slaughter art. He pondered for a long time, and the coldness in his eyes slowly hid itself. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the transfer array. After taking one look, he no longer paid any attention to it and slowly felt the surrounding suction force. Only after integrating with the suction force could he feel the subtle changes inside the suction force. If he wanted to learn about the suction force, he would have to open up his mist and not resist it. He had to become transparent so that the suction could pass through his body. Day after day, year after year, Wang Lin sat here for 3 years. The 7-star sword formation no longer spun and had stabbed into the ground around him. Wang Lin seemed to have become one with the rock. At first, the suction force could cause him to move a little, but gradually it was as if Wang Lin had become transparent. The suction force would just go through his body. Time slipped past, and another 3 years went by. The suction force went through Wang Lin without stopping and rushed toward the bottom. Not even his clothes and hair were moved by the suction force like they were 3 years ago. Not only did his body not move, but his mind also didn't move at all. During these past 6 years, as Wang Lin sat here and felt the suction force going through all parts of his body, he gradually entered a mysterious state. He had a feeling that he had completely disappeared. It was because he had disappeared that the suction had no effect on him at all. However, the suction force still couldn't pass through his origin soul. It was because of this that Wang Lin still had a feeling of not being complete while in this mysterious state. He could make the suction force pass through his body and make his body become one with the suction force. However, he couldn't make it pass through his origin soul and consciousness and truly become one with the suction force. However, Wang Lin wasn't in a rush. He continued to calmly comprehend the suction force. Under this mysterious state, he gradually allowed his origin soul to disperse. Another 5 years passed by in a flash. He had been stranded here for 15 years. He had sat on that large rock for 11 years. His origin soul still completely dispersed and had completely become one with the suction force. On the 17th year since Wang Lin had been trapped here, he opened his eyes. His eyes revealed a trace of vicissitude and calmly looked at the darkness before him. The fusion of my mind and the suction force, this one happen if there is the slightest bit of rejection. To understand the suction force and truly integrate with it, I must become part of the suction force. Once I become the suction force, I will have fused with it. Wang Lin pondered. He had already considered this many years ago. It sounded easy, but actually doing it was very difficult. He had no idea where to begin to make himself part of the suction force. Wang Lin had already grown accustomed to the whistling sound over the last 17 years. The whistling was the voice of the suction. Wang Lin let out a deep breath and closed his eyes. Go down, that woman's voice echoed inside his origin soul once more. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes gave off lightning. He lowered his head and looked down at the darkness below him. The light in his eyes became brighter and brighter. At the moment the brightness reached its peak, it suddenly dissipated. Wang Lin slowly stood up after not moving for 13 years and stepped forward. He didn't use any spell with this step. He was like a mortal stepping off a cliff and into the void. His body immediately fell toward the bottom of the pit, and his figure was devoured by the darkness. Wang Lin's body rapidly fell, and during this he closed his eyes. The suction force was like many large hands mercilessly dragging him down. As he fell, it became even colder. There was even frost on the walls here. Wang Lin turned a blind eye to all of this. His entire mind was immersed in that mysterious state. The only thought in his mind was to completely become one with the suction force. Fuse with the suction force, transform into the suction force, become the suction force. At this moment, Wang Lin's origin soul released countless thunderous booms. The suction force went through his body like crazy and moved through his origin soul. At this moment, Wang Lin opened his eyes. Although his body was sinking, he revealed a faint smile. He took a deep breath, and at this moment, his body stopped falling. The suction force went through his body and no longer obstructed him at all. His origin soul, his flesh, everything about him had fused with the suction force. He was part of the suction force. He looked down and saw that there was no bottom. There was only an endless abyss that looked like it could devour all existence in the world. It is about time to leave my Tao's third ability is the power of the underworld. Wang Lin raised his head until he was looking up and gradually began to rise. Go down, I am begging you, go down. For the first time, there was emotion in the woman's voice. The end of the month is here. Wishing for the like button for the video. Brothers, do you still have likes for the video? Chapter Solving the Secret of the Scroll. Wang Lin stopped. I am begging you to go down, take me down. There was sadness and urgency in that voice. Wang Lin pondered. This voice that had disappeared for 13 years echoed in his mind once more. During the 13 years that he was comprehending the suction force, this woman never spoke. However, her words now contained emotions that weren't there before. He touched the bag of holding with his right hand and the scroll flew out. The scroll gave off a soft light, and the suction force had no effect on it. The scroll opened up, revealing the woman's backside. For the first time, Wang Lin carefully looked at the woman inside the scroll. Although it was only a figure, her figure contained the aura of someone with peerless elegance. I am begging you, take me down. I can leave this scroll so you won't be in danger. I just want to take a look. Wang Lin pondered and didn't speak. I can help you with you anything. I can give you anything. but I beg you to take me down there. Wang Lin lowered his head and looked at the bottom. It was completely dark down there and extremely cold. I can help you. If you want to leave, then go. Wang Lin shook his head and no longer looked at the scroll as he headed up. He had too many things to do. He had opened all the restrictions inside the cave before the All-Seer and company arrived at the demon spirit land so he could enter the real cave. Although he didn't know when the All-Seer and company would arrive, in his conversation with Yao Shishui, he managed to get a few clues, and it seemed like the All-Seer and company were going to arrive soon. Before they arrive, Wang Lin must finish his preparations. He was short on time and he had no time to waste on curiosity. Moreover, he had to make sure the All-Seer doesn't see through him so he could safely leave this demon spirit land. If he makes one mistake, the price will be his life. He had too little time. The woman inside the scroll trembled. She wanted to turn, but there was a seal controlling her. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't turn around. Seeing Wang Lin flying higher and higher until he was about to disappear, she bit her lip and softly said, "You Dante, you want to know the true history of the bead inside your origin soul." Although her voice was soft, it was still heard clearly by Wang Lin. Those words were like 10,000 thunderclaps roaring inside his mind, causing him to suddenly stop. Dante, you want that woman's broken soul to revive. If what he heard earlier was 10,000 thunderclaps roaring inside his mind, then this was 100,000, 1,000,000, 10,000,000 thunderclaps exploding inside him, shaking even his origin soul. His origin soul, his memories, his everything instantly erupted like a monstrous flood at that second sentence. It was as if the entire sky had collapsed. Even with Wang Lin's mental strength, he couldn't stop his body from trembling. He turned around and looked at the woman. His eyes were like those of a wild beast, and no longer contained the calmness from his years of cultivation. At this moment, what All-Seer, what cave, what blood ancestor, what demon spirit land? At this moment all of it collapsed, and the only thing that existed was Wang Lin's crazed gaze at the woman. "What did you say?" A hoarse voice spoken in a tone that never left Wang Lin before came out of his mouth. These simple 4 words revealed an indescribable feeling. At this moment, even the howling of the suction force that had existed for countless years seemed to weaken. The woman softly said, "I can tell you the origin of the bead. I can tell you the method to resurrecting the soul inside the bead. I can even give you the opportunity to leave here." Wang Lin closed his eyes. He didn't want to think about whether the woman's words were true or false. He didn't want to know why she knew all his secrets. He didn't want to. When he opened his eyes, he didn't speak as he took a step, grabbed the scroll, and quickly flew toward the bottom of the pit. Even if there was only a slim chance, he would fight for it. A person will always have one thing where no matter how clever he is, his calm will immediately collapse. Even when facing endless danger, facing life and death, he will still have to keep on persisting. Wang Lin was still a person. He wasn't a merciless celestial or a ruthless god. After cultivating for more than 800 years, his calmness had already seeped into his bones and become his natural state. He could calmly leave planet Suzaku and ruthlessly leave Joru a bag waiting for the day she opens it. He could calmly face all enemies. No matter how powerful they are, they won't be able to shake his Tao heart in the slightest. However, there was one power that could crush this calmness of his. Only after one loses something do they realize they wanted it. Only after one has lost something do they realize that they'd always wanted to cherish it. If someone was always calm, rational, and unwavering, then would that someone still be considered a person? Wang Lin couldn't do it. With sadness in his eyes, he grabbed the scroll and charged down the pit like a meteor. At this moment, he didn't want to think. He wasn't willing to try and distinguish true from false. The woman inside the scroll let out a sigh and softly said, "You can rest assured that I'm not deceiving you. I made a big decision to even tell you all of this." Wang Lin didn't speak, and his grip on the scroll became even tighter. It was as if he wasn't holding onto a scroll but to hope. The coldness coming from the wall was even stronger, and the suction force was greater. An unknown amount of time had passed, and the pit really seemed bottomless. No matter how far he descended, there was only darkness that seemed to extend on forever. Almost there, the woman's voice was trembling. At this location, the suction force was unimaginably strong. Wang Lin's body flew by along with the suction force. After a long time, perhaps it was a day, perhaps it was a month, perhaps it was a year, a short corridor appeared in the darkness below. There was a giant vortex in this corridor. The vortex was slowly rotating, and the suction force came from the vortex. What was mysterious was that the suction force seemed to be sealed here as there wasn't the slightest bit of suction force here. It seemed like only after a certain distance from the vortex would the suction force suddenly become stronger. At the moment Wang Lin looked at the vortex, a strange force came from inside the scroll and entered his body. The power condensed in his eyes, and at this moment, his eyes could penetrate the vortex to see inside it. A starry sky with countless cultivation planets, it looked like another world. This is Wang Lin looked at the vortex and was moved. At this moment, he recovered his calmness. The woman inside the scroll softly said, "My hometown Alheaven star system. Don't think too hard about it, it says just a name and an S never explain what the name means. The end of the month, wishing for the like button for the video, don't hold back, it's expiring." Chapter 657, The Old Monsters Descend, Part 1. System. Wang Lin's pupil shrank. In his memories there was no information on Alheaven star system. Even in Tusi's memories there was nothing on this star system. The woman inside the scroll trembled. She seemed to want to turn around, but there seemed to be an invisible power that prevented her from turning around. Home. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. He stared at the scroll and said, "I have already brought you to this place. Now it's your turn." The woman let out a sigh, and her ethereal voice came out. "Do you want to hear a story?" Wang Lin frowned. His expression was gloomy as he coldly said, "Not interested." The woman was startled. She revealed a bitter smile and said, "A long time ago, there was a mysterious domain. This place was the holy land of cultivators from all over the world, no, the entire universe. It was called the Celestial Domain. Many of the rumors about the Celestial Domain have disappeared in the river of time. No one is even sure if this Celestial Domain even existed. However, one rumor has been passed down. The rumor was that the Celestial Domain abandoned the cultivators and left this universe. The only things left were the 4 tunnels that used to connect to the Celestial Domain. After countless years, those 4 tunnels became places where high-level cultivators had to go and became the Celestial Realm. These 4 celestial realms respectively are wind, rain, thunder, lightning. Below each of the 4 celestial realms is a corresponding star system. Above my Alheaven star system is the Thunder Celestial Realm. The heaven-defying bead doesn't belong to the Alliance star system. It first appeared in my Alheaven star system. No one knows how the bead appeared, but when it did, all the top cultivators in the Alheaven star system felt the existence of the ancient celestial domain. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he coldly looked at the scroll, but he didn't speak. One can easily imagine that a trace of the ancient celestial domain made all the cultivators crazy. However, in the end, this bead mysteriously disappeared. Countless years later, we obtained some clues. For some reason, this bead appeared in the rain celestial realm of the Alliance star system. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes as he pointed above and said, "It was you who set the transfer array." The woman inside the scroll pondered for a long time before shaking her head. "I didn't enter the Alliance star system from here, but that transfer array was indeed made by a cultivator from the Alheaven star system. That transfer array is no longer functional unless there is an Alheaven stone. Not even a celestial jade can activate it. I have told you all I know about the heaven-defying bead. As for the soul inside, my ancestor can definitely help you. As long as you bring me back to the Alheaven star system and send me home, I'll definitely ask the ancestor to help you revive the soul inside." Wang Lin's gaze was cold as he stared at the woman for a long time before he withdrew his gaze. The moment he saw the Alheaven star system, he regained his calmness. What the woman said was obviously meant to lure him to the Alheaven star system. Wang Lin calmly asked, "Which sect in the Alheaven star system do you belong to?" The Alheaven star system is not the same as your Alliance star system. There are no sects, only cultivation families. My family is the Shang family on planet Donglin. Wang Lin seemed to ponder. A moment later he said, "I'm afraid I can pass through this vortex with my current cultivation level." The woman inside shook her head and softly said, "You have the heaven-defying bead, so you should certainly be able to pass." There was a faint flash of coldness in his eyes. Since this woman was so certain, she must have concealed a lot of things. Wang Lin no longer wasted time with the woman. His right hand reached out and grabbed the scroll and moved. He didn't go through the vortex, but flew upwards. The woman inside the scroll immediately said, "You don't want to revive the soul inside the bead?" Wang Lin silently pondered as he charged out. He spread out his origin soul, making him fuse with the suction force, and flew upwards. Along the way, no matter what the woman said, Wang Lin didn't reply at all. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin arrived at the large rock. Across from the large rock was the crack. He landed on the large rock and carefully looked at the transfer array. His origin soul sent out lightning through his feet and into the large rock. Cracking sounds immediately came from the large rock as lightning moved through it. Then with a bang, the rock collapsed into rubble and was sucked away by the suction force. Without this large rock, this place became the same as everywhere else in this pit. Wang Lin grabbed the scroll and entered the crack 200 feet away. After entering this place, Wang Lin waved his hand, and the scroll was inserted deep inside the wall. His eyes became cold and his hand formed many seals, then countless restrictions landed around the scroll. "Why are you doing this without my help? The soul inside your heaven-defying bead can be revived." The woman's anxious voice came from the scroll. Sound sealed. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and his hand moved faster and faster. The countless restrictions almost covered the entire crack. He had checked the scroll while he flew up and knew he couldn't destroy it. However, the woman inside knew too many of his secrets. Since he couldn't kill her, then might as well permanently seal her. "Wang Lin, without me, the soul inside your bead will never be able to resurrect." The vicious voice from the scroll was like a ghostly wail. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, and his hand moved even faster. The vicious voice got gradually softer until it completely disappeared. This sealing process lasted for several months. During this time, Wang Lin never stopped. The countless seals together formed a terrifying seal. After several months, Wang Lin took a step back and flew upwards. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes as his right hand hit the crack. The crack immediately collapsed, burying the scroll deep inside the cave. From the outside, there was nothing abnormal about it. No one will know that there is a woman inside a scroll sealed here. Even if someone were to arrive here, they would be too busy resisting the suction force to bother checking this wall that looked the same as every other wall. After he finished sealing, he didn't immediately leave but stayed at a distance and silently waited. Time slowly passed. Several days later, there was a faint fluctuation from where the scroll was sealed. The moment the fluctuation appeared, Wang Lin, who was a distance away, opened his eyes and revealed a cold smile. His hand formed a seal and a black shadow immediately appeared from behind him. This shadow charged directly toward where the crack was. "Seal!" Wang Lin let out a roar and the celestial guard's hand formed a seal. A powerful seal immediately appeared on the celestial guard's hand and pressed down on the fluctuation. Wang Lin vaguely heard a miserable groan. Then his eyes lit up, and along with the celestial guard, they both placed down countless restrictions in the depths of the crack. After finishing this, Wang Lin withdrew the celestial guard and silently waited. Several months later, that fluctuation appeared once more, and what awaited her was another complete sealing. After 3 times, Wang Lin pondered a bit, and no longer waited but flew straight up. The woman inside the scroll is probably very powerful, but she is sealed inside the scroll. I am afraid she would have never had the chance to escape at all. However, back then she absorbed the third ancestor's spallone and gained some power. I didn't check, so over the years she learned a lot of my secrets. Unless it was due to the special circumstance of the tide abyss, I'm afraid she would have never talked. Instead, she would have silently waited until she recovered. If I keep a hidden danger at my side, it will definitely affect me in the future. She must have ulterior motives. Wang Lin thought about this as he flew up. Only about 30% of what she said was true, but the Heaven star system shouldn't be fake, or else she wouldn't have asked me to take her there. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he floated upward. The suction force here was powerful. Although Wang Lin had become part of the suction force, he could still feel a pressure preventing upward movement. He took a deep breath and slapped his bag of holding. The 7-star sword formation flew out and surrounded his body. The formation created a powerful thrust to help him fly up. The Shang family on planet Donglin. Even if this family has nothing to do with the woman, I should still be able to find some clues about her identity. Since she said that her family's ancestor can revive Wan Er, then it is worth checking out whether it is true or not. Without that scroll following me, even if I go to the Al-Heaven star system, no one will know I have the heaven-defying bead. After all, this demon spirit land is filled with danger, and the Alzer and company can arrive at any time. Once they arrive, it will be unavoidable that we will meet. When facing these cultivators with cultivation levels I can't even imagine, I'll be powerless to resist them. As Wang Lin flew up, his eyes became cold. However, since that last token is in my hand, they can enter the real cave without me. Even if they come to the demon spirit land, it will be useless. Even if they learn from greed that I have the token, it will be too late. I will have already left for the Al-Heaven star system. Once my cultivation level has increased to the point where I can be on equal term with the All-Seer and company, then I can come back and discover the secret of this cave. Wang Lin's eyes were bright. However, before this, there are some matters that need to be dealt with. After I leave, I don't know when I'll be able to return. Wang Lin let out a sigh. The 7-star sword formation gradually lost its effect. The shadow appeared behind Wang Lin, and the celestial guard created a tornado, increasing Wang Lin's speed once more. He was getting closer and closer to the entrance of the pit. A large mosquito herd roared outside the entrance of the pit. The purple mosquito's originally dispirited eyes suddenly lit up. Then it suddenly rushed out and pushed aside some of its companions that were in the way. It stared into the pit and let out bursts of sharp cries. The happiness in his cries was indescribable. The mosquito's body trembled as it flapped its wings and charged like lightning into the pit without any hesitation. At this moment, even though all the mosquitoes cried at the same time, they weren't be able to prevent this mosquito from charging down the abyss. While Wang Lin flew up, he immediately noticed the roars coming from above. He looked up and saw the mosquito beast he hadn't seen for over a decade. When the mosquito saw Wang Lin, its eyes filled with joy. It circled around Wang Lin, letting out cries like a child who had been away from their parents for a long time. It excitedly flew under Wang Lin and carried Wang Lin up. With the help of the tornado from the celestial guard, Wang Lin flew directly out of the pit. At the moment he came out, Wang Lin let out a breath of relief. Chapter. A grand chapter. Not caring to read 4,500 words, can bear to split it into 2 chapters. As the donkey dies a martyr, tears flow wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 658, The Old Monsters Descend, Part 2. The reason he was able to leave, aside from becoming one with the suction force, was largely due to the 7-star sword formation and the celestial guard. The weakening of the suction force played a big role as well. The suction from the pit was unpredictable. Sometimes it was strong, and sometimes it was weak. If it was during a period when it was strong, even with Wang Lin's advantages, it would be hard to come out. After flying out while standing on the mosquito, he immediately saw thousands of mosquitoes staring at him with red eyes and releasing thick, hostile auras. Wang Lin slightly frowned. There were fewer mosquitoes compared to back then. There must have been some unexpected change during Greed and Zhou Yi's battle to cause the number of mosquitoes to decrease so drastically. I just don't know what exactly happened. Wang Lin pondered a bit before placing his hand on the mosquito's head and activating his divine sense. Various scenes immediately flashed across Wang Lin's mind. Halfway through Zhou Yi and Greed's battle, a male and female cultivator descended from the fire demon country exit. These two were simply too powerful. With a simple grab, Greed was captured. Zhou Yi was also easily captured, but it looked like the two had no malicious intent. In fact, the moment they saw Zhou Yi, the man's eyes revealed melancholy and nostalgia. The mosquito herd didn't die, but a majority of them were captured by this couple. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin's mosquito had noticed that something was wrong and had used a spell to make itself look like all the other mosquitoes, it might have been captured as well. When Wang Lin's divine sense returned from the mosquito, his expression was gloomy. He pondered a bit before patting the mosquito's head. The mosquito let out a roar, and instead of flying toward the exit at the fire demon country, it flew toward the entrance at the water demon country. Now that Wang Lin could fuse with the suction force, any location could be an exit. While they flew, the thousands of mosquitoes followed. They would occasionally let out cries of despair and hopelessness, as if they were trying to dissuade Wang Lin's mosquito from leaving. On this day at the water demon country, a purple light rushed out into the air. It was the mosquito beast. Wang Lin was sitting on the back of the mosquito with a gloomy expression. After the purple light appeared, more than 2,000 mosquito beasts charged out as well, completely surrounding Wang Lin. Their gazes were locked on the purple mosquito, and their cries were even louder. Wang Lin's mosquito's eyes revealed decisive gaze as it repeatedly cried as if it was responding. The sadness in the surrounding mosquito's eyes became even stronger. They all looked at Wang Lin with a vicious gaze. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he stood up, and the lightning from his origin soul spread out. At this moment, he seemed to be surrounded by lightning, and lightning seemed to come out of his eyes as he coldly looked at the mosquitoes. Feeling Wang Lin's mood, the mosquito below him immediately let out a sharp cry. This gave off a powerful pressure that caused the surrounding mosquitoes to slowly disperse. Wang Lin took out a bag of holding, opened up a gap, and looked at the surrounding mosquitoes. The mosquito herd was completely silent. After a long time, one of them immediately flew out, turned into a ray of gray light, and entered the bag of holding. After that, other mosquitoes followed. However, not all of the mosquitoes chose to enter the bag of holding. Around 2/3 chose to remain silent. They quietly watched Wang Lin and their king disappear over the horizon. After a long time, they all let out cries filled with sadness. Then the mosquitoes' bodies collapsed one by one. They all decided to destroy their own hearts and fall down the entrance to the tide abyss. In the distance, Wang Lin's mosquito beast's body trembled, and it slowly turned to look at the direction of the tide abyss. Its eyes were filled with sadness as well. Wang Lin let out a sigh and rubbed the mosquito's head. With his understanding of the mosquito beast, he now understood that unless the mosquito was a child, it could never be tamed. All of those that entered his bag were all still children, and all of those that decided to commit suicide were adults. In the world of the mosquito beasts, if they were abandoned by their king, then they could only die, unless a new king appears, that is. Wang Lin couldn't bear the mosquito's sadness, so he jumped off its body and put it inside the bag of holding. Only by allowing it be with its several hundred companions and the thunder toad could it slowly recover from the sadness. Wang Lin floated in the air as he looked up at the blue sky and white clouds. It had been a long time since he had seen the sky. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, and a crystal appeared in his hand. His divine sense entered the crystal, and it immediately began to emit a golden light. The light surrounded him, and soon the light disappeared with Wang Lin inside. When he reappeared, he was already inside the cave. Looking at the remaining restrictions, Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he muttered, "The next time that I come back, I'll break all the restrictions and unlock the secret of this cave." He took a deep breath, and his hand formed a seal to seal the cave. Then he destroyed the transfer array so no one else could enter this cave. Not even the blood ancestor would be able to enter. After doing this, Wang Lin looked at the cave meaningfully. The cave spirit appeared at the entrance, but he only looked at Wang Lin and didn't speak. Wang Lin turned around with the crystal in his hand and left. Wang Lin appeared outside the soul-refining tribe in the Sky Demon Country. The people of the tribe were startled for a moment, but then they immediately began exclaiming in joy and bowing. Wang Lin didn't collect all the soul fragments collected by the tribe, but instead called 13 and Ouyang Hua. After leaving behind some orders and cultivation methods, he even taught 13 the latter half of the giant demon clan cultivation method. After this, he left the tribe. At the moment he left, 13 knelt on the ground and kowtowed a few times toward Wang Lin. Ouyang Hua did the same, and their eyes were filled with sadness. Although Wang Lin didn't say anything, they had a feeling that in this life it would be difficult for them to meet him again. In Sky Demon City inside the Demon General's mansion, Xianxia sat in the lotus position. Beside him, Chen Tao was also cultivating. His cultivation had recovered to the mid-stage of Ascendant after years of healing and medication. He had even advanced a little. Although still a distance away from late stage of Ascendant, he was not too far away. Shortly after, Xianxia opened his eyes, and his eyes lit up. Chen Tao also opened his eyes, and his eyes had a profound gaze. Xianxia calmly said, "Chen Tao, tomorrow I'll go to the Demon Emperor and recommend you as a Demon General. Then you can go to the Dragon Lake to cultivate. Although it is not the true inheritance, it should benefit you a lot." Chen Tao replied, "Tomorrow I will have to call you Vice Commander-in-Chief." Xianxia revealed a proud smile and said, This position should have been mine 100 years ago. Mo Lihai only stole it from me through underhanded methods. If it wasn't tea for that lowly Wang Lin, what would Mo Lihai be? Chen Tao looked at Shi Xiao and calmly said, Wang Lin is my junior apprentice brother. Shi Xiao raised his brow and coldly smiled. Where was your junior apprentice brother during the war with the Fire Demon Country? He took advantage of everyone at the end of the war and took our credit. Although he helped Lord Ancient Demon, he shamed us all. Moreover, that person has been missing for many years now. I'm afraid his bones can't even be found. You remember him as your junior apprentice brother, but I'm afraid he no longer remembers you as his senior apprentice brother. Chen Tao silently pondered. Shi Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of sarcasm, and he said, calling him lowly is me being nice. If he didn't then I'll kill him myself and let him know how a cultivate should act. Is that so? A cold voice came from the void. Shi Xiao was startled, but his expression immediately became gloomy, and he shouted, Who dares to act all mysterious? Come out for this, general. Chen Tao's eyes lit up and stared at the sky. He only saw a black shadow appear in the sky. Behind him was the round moon, and he closely closed in under the moonlight. His body gave off crackling arcs of lightning. It was a very shocking sight. You! Wang Lin! Chen Tao's eyes narrowed when he recognized the Shadow's identity. You sure have courage to dare to break into my mansion. Immediately leave in 3 breaths of time, or else die! Shi Xiao's gaze was cold, and his eyes contained killing intent. In recent years his cultivation had surged. He was equal to an early-stage ascendant cultivator, and his body was filled with demonic spiritual energy. Wang Lin landed on the ground. He calmly looked at Shi Xiao and slowly said, I promised someone in the past to take your life. Today I came here to fulfill that promise. Killing intent exploded from Shi Xiao's eyes and his body charged. He turned into a shadow and charged straight toward Wang Lin. As he moved, his hand formed a seal, and he was about to use a spell. Wang Lin's body didn't move, but under the moonlight, the shadow behind him immediately became ferocious. It suddenly charged out from the ground and in an instant passed by Shi Xiao. Chen Tao's expression changed greatly. Just as he was about to step out, the shadow that passed by Shi Xiao revealed a fierce gaze. Under this gaze, Chen Tao's body trembled. His origin soul shrank, and he completely stopped. Cold sweat flowed down from his forehead. Yin and Yang staged Chen Tao's eyes were filled with terror. The black shadow returned to Wang Lin and turned back into a shadow. Shi Xiao fell down with his eyes still open. There was still killing intent in his eyes, but his life and everything about him had already shattered. Wang Lin turned around and left. Under the moonlight, he seemed to be stepping on the moon. His clothes fluttered and his hair floated in the air as he flew farther and farther away. Be careful of master, Wang Lin's voice echoed in Chen Tao's ears. He stared at the sky for a long time and was speechless. After Wang Lin finished all the matters he had to deal with, he appeared outside the entrance to the tide abyss. He turned around to look at the land before raising his head to look up at the sky. His gaze seemed to penetrate the sky and continued to climb until it finally broke through this land and reached the East Demon Spirit Sea. Outside the gate of the East Demon Spirit Sea, the Alzer, Ling Tianho, the Blood Ancestor, and 7 or 8 elders were standing there. Everyone was waiting for Ling Tianho to opening the gate when the Alzer suddenly exclaimed. He looked at the gate to the Demon Spirit Land, and his eyebrows began to tighten. They were going to enter the Demon Spirit Land several decades earlier than planned. This was because 10 years ago, the Alzer suddenly felt extremely alarmed. He hadn't had this feeling in tens of thousands of years. This feeling came from the Demon Spirit Land. This came from the mark he had left on a disciple called Wang Lin. At that moment, the mark was forcibly removed. This wasn't the first time a mark had been removed. A long time ago, there was a disciple called Sun Yun who also managed to do this. The person with an uneasy mind wasn't only the all-seer. This person's uneasiness came from his daughter, Yao Shizhui. As time passed, his heart felt even more uneasy. When people are at his cultivation level, this kind of uneasiness doesn't come from nothing. This was why when the Alza suggested they enter early, he was the first to agree. Yao Shizhui was his only daughter and his only family. For this daughter, he would disregard everything else. Similarly, Ling Tianhuo's heart was gloomy. 9 of the 12 swords' life lamps had extinguished. Ling Tianhu hid his anger and prepared to enter the demon spirit land. He was going to thoroughly question greed on what happened. The 3 of them didn't know that the thing that was causing all 3 powerful cultivators to be distressed all came from one person. Ling Tianhu's palm pressed down and opened the gate to the demon spirit land. Then he waved his sleeves and stepped inside. Big brothers and little sisters, do you still have likes for the video? Wishing for the like button for the video to help. Chapter leaving. This palm landed on the gate to the demon spirit land, but what it shook was the entire demon spirit land. At this moment, all 9 countries of the demon spirit land trembled. The entire demon spirit land was filled with cries, and the sky was no longer blue but dark. The clouds churned and a giant vortex formed. This vortex was simply too big. It spread out and slowly rotated. Sword energy came from inside the vortex and spread out in the sky. An aura as overbearing as the sky appeared. At the same time, 7 rainbow-colored lights appeared from the vortex and descended. At this moment, all of the ancient demons came out from their respective holy lands and stared gloomily at the vortex in the sky. Beilu's eyebrows tightened as he looked up at the sky. After taking a glance, he waved his sleeves and disappeared. Several people walked out from the vortex in the sky. Ling Tianhu stood in the sky wearing green robes. He looked down on the earth and shouted, "Greed, come out and meet this old man." His voice spread out like thunder rumbling across the sky. The ground immediately began to crack and spread. In the blink of an eye, Ling Tianhuo's voice spread across the entire demon spirit land. Strangely, everyone else seemed to already know that greed had come here, so they were not surprised. The blood ancestor's eyebrows furrowed and his face sank. The moment he stepped into the demon spirit land, he swept the entire land with his divine sense, but discovered no trace of Yao Xishui. It was as if she had completely disappeared, and this made him even more uneasy. He took a deep breath and began to secretly activate a spell. He scanned again with his secret spell, and his expression became even more gloomy. The Ulcer raised his right hand and pinched his fingers to calculate. From the outside, there was the East Demon Spirit Sea interfering with his divination. But now he was inside the Demon Spirit Land, so there was no longer anything obstructing him. Just at the moment these old monsters entered the Demon Spirit Land, Wang Lin leaped into the tide abyss. He flew down toward the bottom like a meteor. The suction force was like a powerful thruster that pushed Wang Lin deep into the pit. Ling Tianhuo's expression was gloomy. After his voice came out, he spread out his divine sense to sweep the area. In the extremely northern area, 2 other divine senses suddenly appeared and collided with him. Ling Tianhu let out a muffled groan and his body trembled slightly. Then his eyes shined brightly. At the same time, a cloud silently appeared before them. This cloud wasn't solid, but only an illusion. A man and a woman were sitting on the cloud. These 2 were the celestial cloud couple, Wang Wei and Hu Huan. Wang Wei calmly looked at Ling Tianhu and company. When his gaze landed on the ulcer, his pupils shrank an unnoticeable amount. The ulcer still had his eyes closed. He was calculating even after the 2 of them arrived. Wang Wei smiled. "Fellow cultivators, long time no see." Hu Huan also faintly smiled but didn't speak. Ling Tianhu looked at Wang Wei and coldly said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, I noticed that greed is with you. Give him to me, I have important questions to ask him." Wang Wei smiled as he said to his lover, "Look, after so many years, not only has the sword saint's temper not lessened, it became even worse." Hu Huan revealed a tender gaze and smiled. It is understandable that the sword saint is worried about his disciples. Ling Tianhuo's expression was extremely gloomy. If it wasn't for that fact that he dreaded these 2, he would have already attacked them, given his personality. Wang Wei slapped his bag of holding, and 2 people immediately flew out. One of them was Chen Long, and the other was Greed. After Chen Long saw Ling Tianhu, his eyes were filled with joy. He knelt down with moisture in his eyes and said, "Master!" It was Greed. It was him who harmed all my junior apprentice brothers. Greed's expression was neutral without any changes. After he appeared, he just stood behind Wang Wei and Hu Huan as if he was an old slave. Ling Tianhu didn't look at Chen Long, but stared at Greed and gloomily said, "Greed, you sure have guts." Although Greed's heart skipped a beat, his expression didn't change at all. He coldly looked at Chen Long and said, Little kid, did this old man personally kill a single person of your Dalu sword sect? Chen Long viciously stared at Greed. Now that his master was here, he felt empowered and shouted, "Although you didn't personally kill us, you trapped us in the purple mist. If it wasn't for that, how could my junior apprentice brothers have died?" Greed laughed and said, "This old man trapped you all inside the mist in order to get the token, but did I harm a hair on you all? Instead of looking for the man who killed your junior apprentice brothers, you come and accuse me. What nonsense." Chen Long was about to speak, but unexpectedly, Ling Tianhu waved his sleeves and coldly said, "Chen Long, say no more." Ling Tianhu looked at Greed with killing intent and said, "Word for word, Greed, where is the token?" Greed bitterly smiled and said, with a bitter expression, "You all may not believe me, but I swear upon my tens of thousands of years of cultivation that the token is not in my hands." Ling Tianhu stared at Greed without a word, waiting for him to continue. At this moment, aside from the Alzer, who still had his eyes closed, all of the old monsters, including the blood ancestor, turned their sharp gazes at Greed. Greed's scalp went numb. Among the people present, aside from Chen Long, he had the lowest cultivation level. At this moment, he was being stared at by all of these powerful cultivators, and he felt his mind tremble. It took a moment for him to regain himself. He took a deep breath and quickly said, "It was the Heavenly Fate Sect's Wang Lin who took the token. Nephew Chen Long can testify to that. It was also him who killed the people of the Dalu sword sect." Ling Tianhu frowned and looked at Chen Long. Chen Long quickly said, "Master, disciple only saw that Wang Lin had the token and was trapped by Greed. I don't know of what happened after. However, he did indeed kill several of my junior apprentice brothers." Just at this moment, the Alzer suddenly opened his eyes and looked toward the east. "He wants to leave." The Alzer's hand moved even faster, and his gaze seemed to penetrate into the distance. It landed directly at the entrance to the tide abyss in the water demon country, and penetrated down to the opening of the pit. However, his gaze didn't stop there and went straight down the pit. As Wang Lin descended, he immediately noticed. Then he immediately became one with the suction force and moved down even faster. The Alzer felt his gaze being affected by the suction force. He hesitated for a bit before penetrating the suction force and going further down. The Alzer's spell immediately caught Ling Tianhu and company's attention. Even the celestial cloud couple had surprise in their eyes. These old monsters all spread out their divine senses at this moment and followed the Alzer's vision deep into the tide abyss. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he slapped his bag of holding and the 7-star sword formation flew out. The formation rotated around his body, making him even faster. Wang Lin rushed directly toward the bottom of the pit, and soon he arrived at where the vortex was. At this moment, the Alzer and the divine senses of all the old monsters descended. Ling Tianhu immediately saw the 7-star sword formation. This immediately made him enraged. The Alzer also saw Wang Lin without any of the celestial slaughter branding. This made the Alzer's gaze show a hint of coldness. Wang Lin stepped on the vortex, then he turned around and coldly looked at everyone before gradually sinking into it. A powerful force came out from the vortex and spread out. This power was simply too strong even for the Alzer and company's divine sense. They could only retreat and watch Wang Lin completely enter the vortex. It wasn't that they didn't want to stop him, but the power coming from the vortex was the power that connected 2 star systems. This power was simply too strong. The moment Wang Lin's figure entered the vortex, the blood ancestor's divine sense stared at Wang Lin, and his expression was very gloomy. Just a moment ago, he felt Yao Shishu's aura on Wang Lin. It revealed Yao Shishu's struggle and rebellion, which made the blood ancestor conclude that Yao Shishu's disappearance had something to do with Wang Lin. It was very likely that Yao Shishui was captured by Wang Lin. His expression was extremely dark and he shouted, "Wang Lin, where is my daughter?" There are not only 3 fake caves, but 4. Before Wang Lin disappeared, he left this sentence. Other people might not understand Wang Lin's words, but the blood ancestor immediately understood. The 4th fake cave was a secret only he and Yao Shishu knew. It was something Yao Shishui would not tell anyone else. This was also Wang Lin's hope. Although he was going to leave, he was going to completely stir this pot up. If the blood ancestor hadn't noticed Yao Shishui, it would have been fine. However, since he found out, Wang Lin must counterattack. His purpose was to make it so that the blood ancestor couldn't chase after him personally due to Yao Shishua. He believed that with these old monsters' minds, his words would help them make many associations. Wang Lin disappeared. The area around the vortex was completely silent. All these old monsters had gloomy expressions. They originally all had their own plans, and after hearing Wang Lin's words and seeing the blood ancestor's reaction, they all looked toward the blood ancestor. The blood ancestor felt like there were needles on his back. He pondered for a bit and said, "There is indeed a fourth fake cave, but it has obviously been occupied by this Wang Lin. He also has a token, so if he isn't captured, then there is no chance for us to enter the real cave. We already knew that this vortex was an entrance to the Al-Heaven star system, but the power inside the vortex was too strong. This Wang Lin somehow obtained an item that allowed him to enter. All of us have tried to enter but could not succeed. However, if we join hands and only send one person, we should be able to do it." Ling Tianhu asked, in a heavy tone, "Who goes? If I say I'll go, then fellow cultivators would all be suspicious of me. The best choice is no doubt greed. Each of us will leave a restriction on him, and then this greed will never escape our palms. He can only obediently capture Wang Lin and bring him back. Also, greed's cultivation level is high enough to deal with Wang Lin." The ulcer silently stared at the vortex, and his eyes revealed a mysterious light. No one knew what he was thinking. Just in time to keep the manuscript, tonight's update might not be timely. If there's no second watch tonight, Leo will supplement tomorrow. However, Leo will try his best to finish today. Chapter 65, Sect Mourning. Wang Long touched his bag of holding and looked toward the Heng Yue sect with a complex expression. Dao Shu stood at his side and said, "Sect head, there will be a time when we will take back the Heng Yue mountain." Wang Long bitterly smiled and said, "The purple moon sword was given to me by Ancestor Lu when I became the sect head. I told him that as long as the sword is there, I'll be there, but now, alas." The red-faced elder named Ma darkly said, "Sect head, the Xuandao sect had a nascent soul cultivator. Not fighting him was the logical thing to do. There is no need to feel remorse about things like this. The cultivation world has always been like this. Back when the Heng Yue sect was powerful, we did the same thing." Wang Long secretly sighed and didn't say a word. Wang Lin sat down cross-legged in the corner, looking at the Heng Yue mountain. All of this happened too quickly, and he was still in a state of shock, but he was mostly worried about his parents. After pondering for a while, he still couldn't set aside his worries. He was afraid that the Xuandao sect disciples would go find his parents for revenge. Thinking about this, a cold light appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. Although he didn't want to kill people, if they wanted to hurt his parents, he wouldn't mind killing them. Situ Nan proudly boasted, "This is the right way, Wang Lin. Hey, you should have been like this a long time ago. It is only killing people. What's the big deal? I have 10,000 ways for people to wish they were dead." Wang Lin frowned and said to Situ Nan, "Killing people is no the solution to this problem. If I kill one, there will be another, unless I kill all of the disciples of the Xuandao sect." Situ Nan kept trying to push him. "What's so difficult about that? I'll teach you a technique, the puppet technique. Then you can capture someone and reform them into a loyal puppet. How is that? With this, you will be able to live worry-free." Just as Situ Nan finished speaking, the fat youth from the sword pavilion came up to Wang Lin and sat down next to him. He wryly smiled and said, "Head senior brother, my name is Huang Dashan. In the future, please take care of Junior here." Wang Lin glanced at the other, but before he could respond, the black-clothed disciple named Zhang came and said, "Huang Dashan, if you have time, you should cultivate more instead of asking someone to take care of you." Huang Dashan wryly smiled and said, "The sect is gone. Among the inner disciples left, senior brother Wang Lin is the strongest. No matter how much I cultivate, I won't be able to beat him, so I might as well be his underling." Brother Zhang turned and looked at Wang Lin. He remembered when he brought the 3 disciples up to the mountain to be tested to join the sect. He secretly sighed and said, "Wang Lin, your progress has really been unexpected. I truly admire you." Wang Lin let out a wry smile, but was unable to say anything. He always had a lot of respect for Brother Zhang. Brother Zhang was one of the few inner disciples in the sect that not only had never mocked him but even encouraged him. At this point, Lu Song walked toward the 3, frowning, and said, "Zhang De Kun, We haven't seen each other for several years and you have finally reached the 6th layer. Do you still remember the promise from 10 years ago? Brother Zhang's eyes lit up. He stared at Lu Song and said, "Of course I remember." Lu Song let out a sigh. He sat down next Wang Lin, then patted Wang Lin's shoulder and said, "Wang Lin, the Hang Yue sect exists only in name. I'll say something ugly. If you had stayed at the Xuan Dao sect, you would have a much better future than coming here with us." With that, he bitterly smiled at Brother Zhang and said, "Zhang De-kun, your stubborn temper is still the same as ever. What's the point of that 10-year promise when the sect doesn't even exist anymore?" Sigh. Wang Lin looked at Lu Song. He moved his shoulder to get away from Lu Song and said, "Didn't elder brother Lu Song also not stay at the Xuan Dao sect?" Lu Song shook his head and said, "Don't call me elder brother. According to the rules, I should be calling you elder brother. Hey, if I were stay there, I would have no future, because I have offended too many people in the Xuan Dao sect." Zhang De-kun coldly said, "Not only have you offended people from the Xuan Dao sect, you have offended a lot of people in the Hang Yue sect as well." Lu Song raised his head. He looked at Zhang De-kun and sighed. "Junior brother Zhang, before I became a core disciple, I was a very hated person, but that was in the past. What use is there in talking about it now? Back then, there was only one slot for a core disciple that year, and I had to help. I offer my apologies to you, junior brother Zhang." Zhang De-kun's face remained cold and he didn't say a word. During the competition for the core disciple slot that year, he was up against one of Lu Song's relatives. Before the fight, Lu Song appeared and injured him, causing him to lose the fight. Lu Song told him that he was not convinced then he could find Lu Song in 10 years to fight again. Lu Song honestly said, "Brother Zhang, I'll do my best to make up for what happened 10 years ago, but currently, the sect is in hardship, so US inner disciples should band together. Forget the disciples under TH layer. Between us four, Huang Dashan is at the TH layer, Zhang De-kun is at the TH layer, and I am at the TH layer. So what layer are you at, Wang Lin?" Wang Lin saw that everyone was looking at him. He pondered a little, then honestly answered, 14th layer of QI condensation. The moment the words were said, the 3 people next to him all sucked in breaths of cold air. They all knew Wang Lin was strong, but they didn't expect him to be this strong. Lu Song's mouth dried up. He wryly smiled and said, "Congratulations, elder brother Wang. You will soon reach the foundation building stage. When that happens, I'll have to call you elder." Zhang De-kun gave Wang Lin a deep and thoughtful look before letting out a sigh, while Huang Dashan's eyes lit up. The other surrounding inner disciples carefully observed the 4. The few with sharper ears heard what Wang Lin said. Their eyes were filled with even more respect towards him. Lu Song took a deep breath and said, "Senior brother Wang Lin, from now on, we are the top disciples in the Heng Yu sect. You will be the elder senior disciple, I'll be the second disciple, Zhang De-kun will be third, and Huang Dashan will be the 4th. We should from now share our experience and form a group. What do you think?" Wang Lin pondered for a little. Before he could say anything, Huang Dashan quickly said, "What second senior brother said is correct. That is how it should be." Zhang De-kun hesitated for a while. He nodded and said, "There should be leaders among the inner disciples. This will help the elders and make it so that they have less things to worry about." When Wang Lin saw that the other 2 had already agreed, he nodded in agreement. He didn't really care about this matter as he had other plans. Just at that moment, Liu Wenju and the old woman opened their eyes. "Reading so much. Besides the golden keyboard is active, I ask everyone to support a bit more, not just words of support. I'm afraid I can't even carry the last 3. Chapter 660 Arriving in All Heaven. All Heaven Star System. Bright starlight spread endlessly in all direction. The All Heaven Star System was very large and had numerous cultivation planets. Aside from a few people within the Alliance Star System, most cultivators didn't know of the existence of other systems. However, the All Heaven Star System wasn't the same. Almost all of them knew that there was a star system below each of the wind, rain, thunder, and lighting celestial realms. This had a deep relationship with the fact that the Cultivation Alliance was the sole power in the Alliance Star System, and they had hidden a lot of things. Including Wang Lin, almost every cultivator thought that the Cultivation Alliance was the only power under the stars. The All Heaven Star System had much more freedom. However, some secrets were still tightly kept. One difference between the 2 star systems was that there were no sects in the All Heaven Star System. there were only cultivation families. What the All-Heaven star system cared about was bloodlines. Only by having the same bloodline would people gather and create their own force. Several rays of light flew by. There was a total of 4 people, 3 male and 1 female. Although it was hard to tell their exact ages, their appearances were relatively young. There wasn't much difference between their cultivation levels. Aside from the woman, who was a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator, the other 3 were all at the early stage of soul transformation. The woman looked like she was in her 20s. Although she was beautiful, there was a hint of coldness coming from her. However, instead of pride, she gave off a ladylike atmosphere. The 3 male cultivators were all very handsome. However, right now their expressions were gloomy, and they constantly looked behind them. One of the males quickly said, "Let us throw away the brilliant red stone. Otherwise, these dark fog insects will not stop chasing us. Once they trap us." The woman softly said, "The dark fog insects will still chase those who took the brilliant red stone even if they throw it away." A large gray mist was chasing after them. If one looked closer, they would see countless finger-sized insects in the mist. The mists came from something their bodies gave off. Every single one of them had a star compass under their feet, so they were going fast. However, if it wasn't for the woman, who would occasionally scatter large amounts of crystals to block the gray mist, the insects probably would have caught up long ago. Even so, the woman became more and more exhausted, while the insects got closer and closer. Finally, the mist suddenly charged forth and surrounded the 4 of them. From a distance, one could only see the giant mist and not the 4 people trapped inside. The 4 of them came from planet Ranyun. The woman's name was Ran Yue. The 3 males' names were Ran Chen, Ran Feng, and Sun Shuishan. The 4 of them originally came to train, but due to certain events they obtained a brilliant red stone. This led them to be chased by a large amount of insects, and in the end, they were surrounded. The mist the dark fog insects gave off was poisonous to cultivators. Just touching it could injure the origin soul and stop all spells, so it was extremely terrifying. The 4 of them were trapped inside the mist. If not for the woman's jade bracelet, which gave off faint rays of thunder, keeping the mist at bay, the 4 of them would have been long swallowed by the mist and had their origin souls destroyed. The remaining 3 all used various spells and treasures in an attempt to break out of the mist. However, the mist was too thick, and in the end they still couldn't charge out. As time passed, the celestial spiritual energy inside the 4 gradually dwindled, and there weren't many pills left. Ran Yu frowned and softly said, "The dark fog insects fear thunder spells the most, and I have already requested help from the family. This place is a bit far away from the family, but we must resist until a senior good at thunder spells comes and saves us." Her celestial spiritual energy consumption was the highest. Most of it was absorbed by the bracelet. If the bracelet wasn't there, they would be swallowed by the insects in an instant. The only male who was not in the family, Sun Shuishan, let out a bitter smile. He looked at the countless insects in the mist and despair appeared in his heart. We can only blame ourselves for being greedy. If we hadn't pried out that brilliant red stone, we wouldn't be in the present crisis. At this moment, a ray of silver light flew by the mist. This ray of silver light looked like a dragon, and there was a young man sitting on it. He was wearing a snow-white robe with his hair tied up behind his back. Although his looks were ordinary, his skin glistened and his eyes were proud. Lightning would occasionally flash across his eyes, making him look even more fierce. He was Wang Lin. After Wang Lin entered the vortex, it was as if he had entered a transfer array. When he came out, he was amongst the stars. There were bright nebulae around him, but not a single person. This was a foreign star system to Wang Lin, not his home, the Alliance star system. This was the All-Heaven star system under the Thunder Celestial Realm. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin took out the star compass. Then, with a trace of confusion, he began roaming the star system. The gray mist in the distance attracted Wang Lin's attention. The silver light flashed under him, and he arrived next to the mist. Lightning flashed across his eyes, allowing him to immediately see what was strange about the mist and spot the 4 people trapped inside. The dark fog insects actually trembled under Wang Lin's gaze, as if Wang Lin's gaze had solidified into something. They all dodged his gaze, which created an opening. The 4 people trapped inside were immediately startled. Ran Yue's eyes lit up, and she was secretly shocked. A mere gaze was enough to force the dark fog insects back. This kind of spell completely shocked her mind. Her beautiful eyes moved and saw Wang Lin on the silver light outside the mist. The despair in Sun Shuashan's eyes immediately disappeared. He immediately clasped his hands and shouted, "Senior Junior is from the Sun family on planet Ranyun. I hope Senior can help us. Junior will definitely thank Senior." Ran Chen and Ran Feng both quickly clasped their hands. They sincerely and respectfully asked to be saved. Ran Yu looked at the young man on the silver light, and her eyebrows loosened. She clasped her hands and softly said, "Senior Junior is from the Ran family on planet Ranyun. We are trapped by these dark fog insects. If Senior saves us, the Ran family will definitely reward Senior." Wang Lin's expression was calm as his gaze swept the four of them. He withdrew his gaze and the mist immediately churned, swallowing up the opening. Exclamations came from inside the mist. The expressions of the people inside immediately became ugly. Sun Shuashan quickly shouted, "Senior, we have a brilliant red stone. If Senior saves us, then we will give this stone to Senior as thanks first." Wang Lin didn't know what the brilliant red stone was, so he wasn't tempted. He looked at the mist and began to ponder. He was too unfamiliar with the Alheaven star system, so he had to gain information as soon as possible so he could go to the Shang family that the woman inside the scroll talked about. The four people trapped inside the mist couldn't see outside. At this moment, aside from Ran Yu, the other three were filled with tension and anxiety. Ran Yu's brows began to furrow. There weren't many pills left in her bag, and if this continued, the consequence would be unimaginable. She clenched her teeth and said, "Senior, I..." Before she finished speaking, Wang Lin's voice entered the mist. "Where is planet Ranyun?" The four of them were startled. Sun Shuashan quickly said, "It is about 7 days of travel from here toward the north. If Senior wants to go, Junior can lead the way to repay Senior for saving us." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He raised his right hand and pointed at the void. Suddenly, a ray of lightning came out from his origin soul, and he flicked it with his right hand. When the mist dispersed due to his gaze, Wang Lin guessed that these insects feared thunder spells. At this moment, a bolt of lightning shot out from the tip of his finger. It flew through space with a thunderous rumble like it was a thunder dragon. It gave off a powerful pressure as it suddenly charged into the mist. The dark fog insects immediately began to scream and retreat. A large amount of mist came from the insects and pounced on the thunder. If it was a normal thunder spell, it would have weakened when facing the mist. After all, even though the dark fog insects were weak to thunder, the poison in their bodies was still extremely powerful. However, this thunder wasn't thunder, formed from ordinary spells but real heavenly thunder. It was an ability Wang Lin had gained when his origin soul combined with the ancient thunder dragon. The thunder dragon roared, and then a large amount of mist dissipated. The lightning moved through the mist, causing large numbers of dark fog insects to retreat. They could clearly feel the pressure from the thunder. They were already afraid of thunder, and the heavenly thunder was like their natural enemy, so they quickly retreated. In the blink of an eye, as the thunder dissipated, all of the dark fog insects flew far away. The four of them immediately flew out and arrived next to Wang Lin. Without any exception, the four of them felt like they had just escaped the jaws of death, but what they felt even more was shock. Sun Shuashan's gaze toward Wang Lin was filled with shock. As someone from the Alheaven star system, he wasn't unfamiliar with thunder spells. Although he couldn't use any himself, the Alheaven star system was connected to the thunder celestial realm. Here, thunder spells were the most powerful. His shock came from the might that came from the ray of thunder. He didn't know what kind of spell could cause an illusion ray of thunder to contain trace of real thunder might. This was something not even the elders and ancestors of the family could do. Ran Yu and the other two Ran males were also shocked, especially Ran Yu, who sucked in a breath of cold air. Her eyes suddenly lit up when she looked at Wang Lin. After all, she had reached the mid-stage of soul transformation, so her position in the family was higher than that the other three, meaning she knew more secretive things. Her mind was in shock as she recalled everything that had happened. She took a deep breath and respectfully said, "Junior is part of the 9th generation of the Ran family. Is Senior a thunder celestial messenger?" After she said that, Sun Shuashan's expression changed. He thought to himself, indeed he must be a thunder celestial messenger. However, why would a thunder celestial messenger want to go to planet Ranyun? Fans celebrating the new year, please join the VIDEO fan battle team. If you need to complete a mission, Leo can praise everyone in the chapter narration. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 661 My Ear. Thunder Celestial Messenger Wang Lin's expression didn't change as he calmly looked at the four of them. He neither admitted nor denied it. Although Ran Yue's heart was in shock, she quickly calmed herself. After she saw that Wang Lin didn't speak, she began to speculate. Although Wang Lin's spells were shocking, the status of a Thunder Celestial Messenger was extraordinary, so she was suspicious as well. Moreover, what really made her surprised was that she couldn't see through Wang Lin's cultivation. This made her even more uncertain Wang Lin's identity. As for the remaining three, especially Sun Xueshan, they were very respectful. Especially Sun Xueshan, who was even excited to the point of fanaticism. After he heard Ran Yue's words, he was determined in his heart that this person must be a Thunder Celestial Messenger. Sun Xueshan respectfully said, "If Senior wants to go to planet Ran Yun, Junior is willing to lead the way." Wang Lin nodded as he sat on the silver dragon and flew toward the north. Sun Xueshan quickly followed with Ran Yu and company behind them. After flying for a short period of time, Wang Lin frowned. The four of them were too slow. Going at this speed would take 7 days. He pondered for a bit before slowing down the star compass and keeping pace with the four of them. He was foreign to the Alheaven star system, so he wasn't anxious to rush around. Instead, it would be better to gain an understanding of the Alheaven star system to make it easier for him to travel around later. Wang Lin calmly asked, "What other cultivation planets are around planet Ranyun?" Sun Xueshan was secretly looking at the silver dragon star compass under Wang Lin's feet and revealed a gaze of admiration. When he heard Wang Lin, he quickly said, "Planet Ranyun is affiliated with Planet Thousand Illusion, one of the major 5 planets in the northern domain. There are many other planets affiliated with Planet Thousand Illusion as well." He had some doubts about why Wang Lin didn't know this. However, thinking about how there were simply too many planets in the Alheaven star system, he relaxed. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his heart trembled. Planet Thousand Illusion, this name is very familiar. Back then, Zhuge had a disciple named Yu Mei, who cultivated in the Thousand Illusion Ruthless domain. There should be no connection after all. This is a different star system. Northern domain. It looks like the Alheaven star system is divided into East, West, North, and South domains. It looks like I am currently in the northern domain. Through just one sentence from Sun Xueshan, Wang Lin gained a vague understanding of the Alheaven star system. At this moment, Ran Yu softly said, "Senior saved all of us, but we still don't to know your name." Wang Lin calmly said, "Shu Mu." He didn't know when the All-Seer and company would come chasing after him, so he hid his real name. Surname Shu. Ran Yue's eyes faintly flickered, and her mind trembled. She felt that Wang Lin's identity had become even more mysterious. Shu is the biggest family on Planet Thousand Illusion. The Shu family is like a giant tree. Could he be from the Shu family if she hadn't guessed Wang Lin's identity earlier? It wouldn't have mattered much hearing that he was named Shu. However, Wang Lin had shocked her too much earlier, and this caused her to question Wang Lin's identity. Now her imagination was going wild. After hearing Wang Lin call himself Shu Mu, even Sun Xueshan's pupil shrank, and he became more respectful. Ran Yu raised her head and asked, "Where did Senior Shu come from?" Right after she asked, she immediately regretted it. As a junior, asking such questions could easily arouse someone's anger. She then quickly said, "Senior, please don't take offense. Junior knows she was wrong." Wang Lin calmly looked at the woman. This woman was intelligent and very ladylike. It was obvious that she was the leader of these 4 people. "Do you know about Planet Donglin?" Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. His tone was very calm, so it was not possible to tell his current emotion. "Donglin." Sun Xueshan's expression changed greatly. His gaze toward Wang Lin quickly turned from shock to terror. He subconsciously took a few steps back and his face became pale. Not only him, aside from Ran Yu, The other two faces became extremely pale as well. Their gazes turned from shock to terror. Even Ran Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. All the guesses in her heart about Wang Lin's identity were swept away. Their reactions didn't seem to match their cultivation levels. Although soul transformation cultivators were not as cunning as ascendant cultivators, they wouldn't be so easily moved. Compared to them, these four seemed somewhat immature. Combined with his understanding, Wang Lin suddenly had a feeling that he understood something. It seemed like within these cultivation families, the family members rarely experienced deadly situations. Without experiencing countless life and death situations, then no matter how high their cultivation levels were, they would never become true powerhouses. Wang Lin calmly looked at the four of them. Do you guys know about planet Donglin? Ran Yue's expression gradually became pale, and she respectfully said, Senior, planet Donglin is the #1 planet in the northern domain. It has another name, Donglin Slaughter. There is also something strange about the planet, which is that it is sometimes there, and sometimes it just disappears. Ran Yu didn't say one more thing, and that was that everyone who came from planet Donglin were ruthless people. There once was a cultivator who came from planet Donglin and slaughtered an entire cultivation family. Planet Donglin was a terrible nightmare for most people in our Heaven star system. After that, even Sun Xueshan didn't dare to look at Wang Lin. His heart was filled with uncertainty. He didn't know why this Shumu wanted to go to planet Ranyun. This doubt became even stronger in the hearts of the other three. This doubt became stronger and stronger in their hearts, causing them to become slower and slower. They were now somewhat unwilling to bring Wang Lin to planet Ranyun. However, even if this was the case, the four of them didn't dare to refuse. Although they were unwilling, their direction was still toward planet Ranyun. In their eyes, although Wang Lin barely spoke, this Shu Mu seemed to know everything. Many times the four wanted to change directions, and every time they were met with Wang Lin's cold gaze. Several days later, a blue planet appeared before Wang Lin. It seemed like oceans occupied most of the planet. From far away, planet Ranyun was very beautiful. It gave off dense spiritual energy that nourished everything. Through the four expressions, Wang Lin knew that this was planet Ranyun. The spiritual energy from this planet was far above Wang Lin's home planet of Suzaku. Wang Lin moved first, and the star compass turned into a ray of silver light that flew into planet Ranyun. Then the silver light disappeared and Wang Lin floated under the blue sky. Spiritual energy came from the ocean below him. It was even more dense. Wang Lin took a deep breath, then his body flickered and he disappeared. The four of them that led the way had ashen expressions. They immediately headed back to their families and explained everything that had happened. When Wang Lin entered planet Ranyun, a terrifying dark red light was flying through the Alliance star system. This red light gave off a terrifying aura. It looked like a bolt of lightning as it flew across space, and it was giving off earth-shattering pressure. There was an old man inside the ray of red light. There was a vicious gaze on his thin face. What was most amazing was that he didn't use any magical treasure to fly through space. Every single step he took was as if he was teleporting. He wasn't alone. There was a woman beside him. She was an incomparable beauty. Her lips were red, her eyebrows were too thick or thin, her phoenix eyes were pitch black, and she had matchless beauty. Her shining eyes would cause anyone to lose their breath. Her 3-foot-long hair was split into 3 strands. One curled up behind her head with the help of a white jade butterfly pin. The other 2 strands casually hung over her shoulders. She was wearing a beautiful light flower imperial top. Below, she wore a smoky green flower dress. While she moved, she was outstanding and dazzling. This woman wasn't any less beautiful than Red Butterfly. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her a national beauty. In addition, aside from her appearance, she gave off a charming aura that made her even more attractive. She was following the old man. She didn't use her own speed. She was being brought along by the old man. Otherwise, even though she had reached the ascendant stage, she wouldn't be able to keep up with the old man. While they flew, she turned around and looked at the star system behind her, and her eyes revealed a strange color. It was as if she was recalling the past. It also seemed like she was sighing, but what she felt the most was a very complex feeling. I'm about to leave the woman's side. Mayor, are you still reluctant to leave? The proud old man turned around to look at the woman. There was a hint of kindness in his eyes. Disciple grew up here and feels a bit reluctant now that I am leaving. The woman played with her hair and tightened her red lips. The old man laughed. There is no need to feel reluctant. Once your cultivation level is high enough, you can return. Although I didn't find the treasure I was looking for, accepting you as a disciple made this trip to the Alliance star system worth it. The woman smiled but didn't speak. However, her gaze toward the star system behind her became even more complex. The old man withdrew his gaze. The woman before him was someone who he met by chance a few hundred years ago. He immediately recognized that she was cultivating the 1,000 illusion ruthless domain and was progressing toward the 10,000 illusion heavenly demon domain. This discovery shocked him greatly. The ruthless domain wasn't exclusive to one star system, and there were many methods of cultivating it. The key was comprehending the heart. However, for someone to be able to reach the 1,000 illusion stage by themselves was rare, but that by itself wasn't impressive. What made him accept her as a disciple was the vague sign of her developing toward the 10,000 illusion stage. He was the head elder of the Huan family on planet 1,000 Illusion, the head planet in the Al-Heaven star system's northern domain. He had seen many juniors in the family, and aside from a few people, none of them could match her talent. Even among those limited few, they were still lacking compared to her in terms of potential. This was why the old man immediately made up his mind to accept this woman as his disciple. After being together for several hundred years, he grew to love his disciple even more. He even gave up on searching for the heaven-defying bead to take her back to the Al-Heaven star system. It's time to double the likes for the VIDEO, wishing for more likes for the VIDEO. Chapter 662, Scheming Jade. Al-Heaven star system, planet Renyun. At the moment Wang Lin appeared, 3 powerful divine senses rushed over. At the moment they arrived, Wang Lin disappeared and gave off no aura. 2 of them seemed to dread each other, so after these 2 searched the area, they withdrew. Only the other divine sense viciously swept across the entire planet. After finding nothing, it let out a cold snort and then disappeared. This person's cold snort spread across the entire planet and also entered Wang Lin's ears. Wang Lin's figure appeared in a plain in the northern part of the planet. He raised his head to look at the sky and thought 1 mid-stage ascendant and 2 early-stage ascendant cultivators. This Al-Heaven star system is interesting, such rich spiritual energy, but this cultivation planet only has 3 powers, and each power only has 1 ascendant cultivator. If this planet Renyun was in the Cultivation Alliance, I'm afraid it would have been robbed, taken over by an old monster in the 2nd step, or a rank 6 cultivation country would migrate here. There is no way such a planet would only have 3 ascendant cultivators in the Alliance star system. While Wang Lin pondered, his aura began to withdraw. In the blink of an eye, his ascendant aura disappeared, and he only displayed the aura of a core formation cultivator. Wang Lin's cultivation was already at the early stage of ascendant, and his origin soul was extremely strange. Unless there was someone with a higher cultivation level than him close by, it would be impossible to see through him with a mere sweep of divine sense. Of course, this was not the case for those old monsters who were in the 2nd step. I shouldn't be found if I hide here. Even if the All-Seer and company chased me to the Al-Heaven star system, they wouldn't think I'd be hiding in a cultivation planet like this. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and gradually grew less fierce. Even though his eyes were still crystal clear, the eye-catching luster was completely gone. From the expression of those 4 little fellows, planet Dong Lin is extremely powerful. Before I am strong enough, I can go there? Wang Lin revealed a smile. A gentle spring breeze blew out and then all the coldness on his face disappeared. He took out an ordinary-looking flying sword and flew off on it. While he flew, his appearance slowly changed. Not long after, his entire appearance changed completely. At this moment, even people familiar with him wouldn't be able to recognize him. Almost all high-level cultivators were good at this kind of appearance-changing spell. However, for high-level cultivators, this spell had too many weaknesses. Any high-level cultivator only needed to focus a bit to see some clues, and when facing people with vision spells, they would be able to see through the spell at a glance. However, Wang Lin was different. He didn't use the spell himself. It was casted by the celestial guard hiding in his shadow. Not many people could see through it. After flying for a short period of time, a city appeared before him. This city was surrounded by walls made of large blue stones and gave off a commanding majesty. Above the gate were 2 large characters. Sun family. Wang Lin put away the flying sword outside the city and landed. He dusted his clothes and calmly walked toward the city. Maybe it was because they noticed that he was only at the late stage of core formation, but the city guards weren't too strict on the inspection. They merely told him that there were cultivation caves especially prepared for foreign cultivators. Wang Lin paid the spirit stones for temporary residence and received a token. Then he walked into the city controlled by the Sun family. There were a lot of mortals in the city, but there were also many cultivators. All kinds of shops that were filled with stuff cultivators commonly needed lined the sides of the road. Of course, there were some shops just for mortals as well. Wang Lin didn't feel any discomfort while walking on the street. It was as if he was someone from this city. Since he decided to settle here, he was going to find a place to stay. After entering the northern part of the city, Wang Lin immediately felt the silence and thick spiritual energy that covered this area. There were numerous solitary houses with restrictions guarding them. There was a restriction at the entrance preventing mortals from entering. There was also a 300 feet tall rock with 7 or 8 black tokens hanging on it. There was a nascent soul young man sitting under the rock. He had his eyes closed with stream of hot air coming out of his nose. Wang Lin stood outside the entrance and looked inside. The restriction was extremely simple in his eyes. He didn't even need to break it and simply walked in without causing any reaction from the restriction. As he was looked at the restriction, the young man under the rock opened his eyes. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "There are only 8 open rooms. Which one do you want?" Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he calmly asked, "Are there any differences between them?" The young man revealed a look of impatience and said, "The upper rooms cost 1,000 high-quality spirit stones, and the lower rooms cost 100. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before taking out 100 spirit stones and placing them down. The young man revealed a look of contempt as he waved his sleeves and collected the spirit stones. He took a token off the rock, threw it toward Wang Lin, and said, "The 5th house from the west, go." After that, the young man closed his eyes and focused on cultivating. Wang Lin caught the token and looked at it. There were 2 restrictions on the token, and one of them was to get through the entrance. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze, put the token away, and walked inside. At the moment he entered, the young man under the stone opened his eyes and muttered to himself in contempt, "Another foreign cultivator who wants to borrow the spiritual energy of my Sun family to form their nascent soul. How can forming one's nascent soul be so easy? This person's talent is pretty average. Even reaching core formation stage was probably due to pills." Wang Lin naturally heard the young man's words. He turned around and looked back before continuing forward. Soon, he arrived before the 5th house from the west. The house looked simple, but it was filled with spiritual energy. After looking around the room, Wang Lin was satisfied. There was only one bed and a meditation mat. There was also a pill furnace and a semi-enclosed closed-door cultivation room. Although it was small, it was very elegant. Outside the room, Wang Lin casually waved his hand and perfected the restrictions on the house. This made the restrictions 10 times more powerful than before. He sat down in the lotus position inside the room and breathed in the thick spiritual energy. His expression relaxed as the spiritual energy filled his body. Shortly after, Wang Lin released a mouthful of foul air and revealed a hint of regret. "It has been a long time since I cultivated spiritual energy. Unfortunately, no matter how dense the spiritual energy is, it won't raise my cultivation level." Almost all of the celestial jades in Wang Lin's bag were depleted when he broke through to the ascendant stage. There weren't enough left for him to cultivate daily. There are 5 drops of the celestial liquid left. The 4 drops I took when I was under the effect of the celestial ascension fruit allowed my body to have endless celestial spiritual energy, but that obviously won't last long. In just a few years, the celestial liquid in my body will be used up, and I won't have endless celestial spiritual energy anymore. Also, 1 drop of this celestial liquid allowed me to break into the ascendant stage, but the amount of celestial spiritual energy required after is much higher. Consuming some now won't have the same effect as before. Instead of wasting them now, it is better to save them for when I am injured, or when I need endless celestial spiritual energy for a short period of time. Considering all of this, the first thing I need to do is obtain enough celestial jades for my daily cultivation needs. The sky outside gradually darkened, causing the room to darken as well. Wang Lin waved his hand and the candlestick immediately lit up with a crackling fire. The house was immediately enveloped by the light from the candle. There was a fist-sized blue bead on the ceiling. the smoke from the candle rose up and was absorbed by the bead. Soon, the bead was filled with smoke and began to lit up. This phenomenon aroused Wang Lin's interest. He had never seen such ingenious design. He looked at the blue bead that was as bright as the moon. Half an instant stick of time later, the bead inside glowed brightly and a blue light fell. It was very soft, but it extinguished the candle. The bead was now the only thing lighting the room. There are 3 restrictions inside the bead. The 3 gather the smoke, turn the smoke into heat, and use the heat to produce light. In this respect, the Al-Heaven star system is much better. A faint smell of sandalwood came from the bead. This small calmed people's hearts. The 3rd formation is this sandalwood smell. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Not only was there no poison in this smell, it could actually speed up a cultivator's cultivation speed. It was an uncommon alchemy material. While sitting inside the room, the outside was completely silent. Wang Lin pondered for a long time, and a thought suddenly entered his mind. After pondering for a moment, he erased that thought. Stealing is beneath me, and after all, the amount of celestial jades I need is something only ascendant cultivators would have. Maybe some of the big families here have enough. However, if I do this, I would have to leave planet Ranyuan and go somewhere else. So that is not a good plan. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin raised his head and made a decision. He slapped his bag of holding, and some refining materials flew out. He spat out a mouthful of origin energy and surrounded the materials with it. The materials quickly melted and formed 3 molds according to Wang Lin's divine sense. A flying sword, a bronze mirror, and a hairpin. Wang Lin's hand formed a seal and countless restrictions landed on them. Gradually, the 3 treasures began to release pressure. Also, because they were refined by Wang Lin's origin soul, lightning would sometimes appear on them. After placing down the restrictions, Wang Lin pondered a bit, recalling the cultivator back on Suzaku that had the domain of Timoni. With his current cultivation level and due to having his own Tao, he was able to imitate it pretty well. With a wave of his right hand, the bronze mirror fell and the time domain entered it. Then Wang Lin recalled again. This time it was Liu Mei's 1,000 illusion ruthless domain. Endless illusions flashed across his mind until they eventually turned into a ray of light that entered the hairpin. As for the flying sword, Wang Lin didn't leave any domain inside it. He placed a teleporting imprint inside the sword. Cultivator who used domain of time on Wang Lin to let him experience a domain. Wang Lin later made wooden carvings that contained the domain. As usual, 2 chapters at noon, about 10 minutes apart, and 2 more at 8 in the evening, 10 minutes apart. If anything comes up, the other will be informed. Longing for the like button for the video.